When memories get fuzzy, have you ever tried to remember something from a long time ago, like a specific summer day or a funny joke? And as you think about it, the edges feel a little soft, the colors a little faded. It's like reaching for a whisper. That changes. Our memories aren't perfect video recordings. Our minds constantly reshape what we remember. Imagine memory as a sketch, colored in over time, sometimes by you, sometimes by other people's stories. Ancient Greek thinkers wondered if what we recall is true, or just our mind's version. They knew memory was fragile. Think about telling a friend a story, perhaps something silly from class. The first time you tell it, it's one way. The fifth time, you might add a detail or leave one out. Not on purpose, but because the telling itself shapes the memory. Psychologists call this the misinformation effect. If someone describes a car crash as a smash, you might remember it more violently than if they said, hit. That one word can shift your whole memory. This doesn't mean we can't trust anything we remember, but it shows us that truth, when it lives in our minds, can be a shifting, living thing. It teaches us gentleness about our experiences. We learn to listen carefully to others' stories, knowing our understanding is just one thread in a big, blurry tapestry. Finding truth means looking beyond what our mind whispers and being open to how others remember things. When memories get fuzzy, have you ever tried to remember something from a long time ago, like a specific summer day or a funny joke? And as you think about it, the edges feel a little soft, the colors a little faded. It's like reaching for a whisper. That changes. Our memories aren't perfect video recordings. Our minds constantly reshape what we remember. Imagine memory as a sketch, colored in over time, sometimes by you, sometimes by other people's stories. Ancient Greek thinkers wondered if what we recall is true, or just our mind's version. They knew memory was fragile. Think about telling a friend a story, perhaps something silly from class. The first time you tell it, it's one way. The fifth time, you might add a detail or leave one out. Not on purpose, but because the telling itself shapes the memory. Psychologists call this the misinformation effect. If someone describes a car crash as a smash, you might remember it more violently than if they said hit. That one word can shift your whole memory. This doesn't mean we can't trust anything we remember, but it shows us that truth, when it lives in our minds, can be a shifting, living thing. It teaches us gentleness about our experiences. We learn to listen carefully to others' stories, knowing our understanding is just one thread in a big, blurry tapestry. Finding truth means looking beyond what our mind whispers and being open to how others remember things, too. Hearing just half the tale. Have you ever heard only part of a secret, or just one side of a big argument? It's like getting a puzzle box, but finding half the pieces are missing. You can try to imagine the full picture, but it's impossible to truly know what it's meant to be. This is one way truth can become blurry, even disappear, when we only hear half the tale. Think about it. We build our understanding of the world from the information we gather. But what if that information is incomplete? What if the other half of the story is hidden, or never even told? History is full of these moments. Ancient letters found in ruins might only tell us one person's feelings, leaving out the reasons behind a conflict. Old legends change over time as parts are forgotten or new parts added, slowly twisting what was once clear. The truth isn't exactly a lie, but it's not fully known either. It's like looking at a faded photograph. You see shapes, but the details are lost. Imagine two friends, Alex and Ben. Alex is upset because Ben didn't show up for their movie night. Alex tells everyone, Ben stood me up. But what Alex didn't know was that Ben's little sister had a sudden emergency, and he had to rush her to the hospital. He tried to call Alex, but his phone battery died. If Alex only hears Ben didn't show up, the truth for Alex is that Ben is a bad friend. But the real truth, the full story, is very different. Only when the whole picture comes out can Alex understand. This happens in our minds too. Our brains try to fill in gaps. If we don't have all the facts, we often just guess, based on what we do know, or what we think we know, and our guesses can lead us far from the truth. It reminds us that truth isn't just about what's said, but what's left unsaid. To truly understand, we often have to pause, to look for what might be missing, and to ask, is this all there is? Sometimes, the most important parts of the story are the ones we haven't heard yet. The truth waits, quiet, in the spaces between the words. When memories get fuzzy, have you ever tried to remember something from a long time ago, like a specific summer day or a funny joke? And as you think about it, the edges feel a little soft, the colors a little faded. It's like reaching for a whisper. That changes. Our memories aren't perfect video recordings. Our minds constantly reshape what we remember. Imagine memory as a sketch, colored in over time, sometimes by you, sometimes by other people's stories. Ancient Greek thinkers wondered if what we recall is true, or just our mind's version. They knew memory was fragile. Think about telling a friend a story, perhaps something silly from class. The first time you tell it, it's one way. The fifth time, you might add a detail or leave one out, not on purpose, but because the telling itself shapes the memory. Psychologists call this the misinformation effect. If someone describes a car crash as a smash, you might remember it more violently than if they said hit. That one word can shift your whole memory. This doesn't mean we can't trust anything we remember, but it shows us that truth, when it lives in our minds, can be a shifting, living thing. It teaches us gentleness about our experiences. We learn to listen carefully to others' stories, knowing our understanding is just one thread in a big, blurry tapestry. Finding truth means looking beyond what our mind whispers and being open to how others remember things. When words change their meaning, have you ever thought about how fragile words can be? A single word, something we use every day, might not always mean what we think it does. It's a strange idea, but it's true. Words are like living things. They change over time. Their meanings can shift, stretch, or even flip completely. This changing isn't just a small thing. It can make truth harder to grasp. Imagine reading a very old book, maybe from hundreds of years ago. The author writes about something being awful. To us, awful means something terrible, really bad. But back then, awful often meant full of awe, something truly amazing and inspiring. Think about that. If an ancient poet wrote about an awful storm, did they mean it was terrible, or that it was grand and majestic, filling them with wonder? The original meaning gets lost if we don't know the history of the word, and that's why it matters. This isn't only about old books. This happens all the time. Think about how words we hear today might mean something totally different to someone in the future. The simple act of speaking, of trying to share a truth, relies on everyone agreeing on what words mean. But what if those meanings are always shifting, even a little? So, here's the thing. When the meanings of words drift, the exact truth they once held can become blurry, like trying to see through fog. What was once clear might become uncertain. It makes us pause and wonder if we truly understand messages from the past, or even each other in the present. It's a quiet reminder that even language, our main tool for sharing truth, can sometimes hide it away. The secret kept too long. Have you ever thought about a secret, one that you've kept locked away for a very long time? Maybe it was small, maybe it was big. But here's the thing. Sometimes the truth of that secret can start to change, or even fade away, the longer it stays hidden. When a truth is kept too close, unshared, it can become unknowable, not because someone lied, but because time itself can blur the edges. Think about ancient history. We find old writings, like those from civilizations thousands of years ago. Sometimes we find whole cities buried under the earth. The people who built them, the stories they lived, the exact meanings of their words. Much of that truth is lost to us. Why? Because the knowledge wasn't passed on clearly, or the people who knew the secrets disappeared. The truth wasn't purposefully hidden from us, but simply, the secret of how to understand it was kept so long that it vanished with time. Imagine a story your great-grandparent might have told. Perhaps it's a tale about something brave or funny they did as a child. When they first told it, it was fresh and clear. But if they only told it once every few decades, and then only to a few people, and those people also kept it mostly to themselves, the details might shift. Someone might forget a name, or the exact place it happened. Not on purpose, but memories are like water. They change shape over time. So, the original, precise truth of that story, once so clear, might become blurry or even unknowable by the time it reaches you. This shows us something quiet about truth. It's not always a solid, unchanging thing. Sometimes, for a truth to stay knowable, it needs to be seen, to be shared, to be kept alive in the world. When it's held too long in the dark, it can simply wither, leaving only echoes behind. And that's a different kind of mystery. a gentle sadness for the truths that time alone takes from us. Believing what we want. Have you ever noticed how truth seems to shift, depending on what we want it to be? It's a funny thing about our minds. We often build walls around ideas we like, ideas that feel comfortable. We pick facts that fit, and gently push away ones that don't. It's not always on purpose. It's just how we're wired. Sometimes, we lean toward what makes us feel good, what confirms what we already believe. Even ancient thinkers saw this human tendency. They watched people cling to what they already knew, to what they wanted to be true, even when new evidence appeared. It's like our brains protect our favorite thoughts, treasures we don't want to challenge. This isn't a new problem. It's a deeply human part of how we see the world. Here's an example. Think about your favorite band or a movie you love. Someone might tell you a rumor about the lead singer, or point out a small flaw. If you really want that band or movie to be perfect, your mind might quickly find ways to explain away those criticisms. Oh, that rumor isn't true, or that flaw. It's just part of the artistic vision. You want your favorite thing to be flawless, so your mind helps you see it that way. This powerful pull to believe what we want makes finding clear truth trickier. It's like looking through colored glasses. Everything gets tinted by our hopes. It shows us that understanding isn't just about gathering facts. It's also about looking inward, asking if our own feelings are quietly shaping what we think is real. And that's why it matters. To really know, sometimes we have to gently try to see what is, even when it's not what we hoped. Truth, hidden by too much noise. Have you ever tried to hear a quiet whisper when everyone else is talking loudly? It's nearly impossible, right? That soft truth just gets lost. This is one way truth becomes unknowable. It's not hidden from us, but within a huge flood of other sounds, facts, and opinions. Think about our world today. It's always buzzing. Every phone, every social media page, every news show, they all shout for our attention. It's like being in a giant crowded market, with everyone trying to sell you something. How do you pick out the one honest voice from all that noise? Here's the thing, we often can't. People have known for thousands of years that quiet helps us think. Ancient thinkers would find peaceful spots, away from busy cities, just to clear their minds. They felt wisdom came easier in stillness. But today, we often don't have that quiet. We're hit with so much information, so many opinions, alerts, every second. It's not that the truth isn't there, it's just buried deep. Imagine trying to find one specific, small, shiny pebble on a huge beach. It's there, but if the whole beach is covered in millions of other pebbles, all looking similar, it's super hard to spot yours. The endless posts and videos, they can make even the clearest truth feel blurry. Our brains get tired trying to sort it all out. So, here's what happens. We get overwhelmed. We might give up looking for the real story, or we might just listen to the loudest voice, not the truest one. Maybe the real challenge isn't just finding truth. Maybe it's learning to quiet the noise around us, so that soft whisper of truth can finally be heard. Sometimes, to know, we need to be still. A secret we never knew. What if a truth wasn't hidden from you, but you never, ever knew? This is different from a lie or a secret someone kept. This is about things that happened, thoughts that were thought, or feelings that were felt, but they left no trace behind. It's like a whisper carried away by the wind before anyone heard it. That truth was real for a moment, but it's just gone. We can't even look for it because we don't know it was ever there. Think about all the people who lived thousands of years ago. Most of them didn't write things down. They told stories, sang songs, and shared wisdom. But what about the specific jokes they told? The exact words of comfort given? The quiet thoughts of an ordinary person looking at the stars? Those moments were real, filled with truth for them. But they vanished with the breath that spoke them, or with the person who felt them. We can never know those exact truths. They were never meant for our ears, and they left no trail. Think about your great-great-grandparents. What was the silliest thing they ever laughed about? Or what was your grandma's very first thought seeing snow as a baby? Maybe she just felt a cold tingle. Maybe she just wondered. But that exact moment of wonder, that specific thought, it's not written down. It was never recorded. It's gone. No one can ever know that exact truth, not even her dot. It makes you wonder about the vast ocean of things that exist and disappear, never touching our knowledge. And that's okay. It's a quiet reminder of how much lies beyond our reach. Some truths are just too delicate, too personal, or too fleeting to ever be found. And maybe, in that unknowing, there's a strange kind of peace, feeling different than fact. Have you ever felt something so deeply it seemed like the only reality? Maybe a pang of dread before a presentation, even though you knew every word. Or a sudden sadness when a friend walks by without a smile, convinced they're upset. Here's the thing, our feelings are very real. They live inside our minds and hearts, painting our world with color and shadow. But sometimes, what we feel doesn't match what is actually true, what is fact. This is one quiet way truth can slip away. For centuries, wise people observed this. They knew our inner world, full of emotions and personal experiences, can create a different picture than the outer world of hard facts. Thinkers pondered how what we perceive might not be the whole truth, especially when emotions are in charge. Feelings can be so powerful they make us blind to what's truly there. Imagine this, you're waiting for a text from a friend. Hours pass, you start to feel worried, then sad, even angry. You feel like they're ignoring you, or that something bad happened. Your emotions build a whole story, a heavy feeling that fills the room. But then, the text comes. So sorry, my phone died. The fact was simple. A dead battery. Your feelings, though real, created a completely different picture of the truth. They made you believe a story that wasn't happening. So, how do we find truth when our feelings are strong? It's about learning to pause. It's about gently asking, is this a fact? Or is this how I feel right now? This might work for you, just noticing that difference. Our feelings give our lives meaning, but they can also cast shadows on the truth. Recognizing this helps us look with clearer eyes. Your internal landscape is beautiful, but it's not always the map to the outside world. The lie told with a smile. Have you ever met someone who seemed perfectly nice, even friendly, but their words just didn't sit right? It's a strange feeling, like a quiet alarm ringing inside, even when everything on the surface looks good. This is how truth can slip away. The lie told with a smile. Here's the thing, when someone says something untrue, but they do it with warmth, with charm, with a genuine smile, it's much harder to spot. Our brains are built to trust friendly faces. We tend to lower our guard. This makes the lie powerful. It uses our natural instinct to believe good intentions. Think about old stories. Many warn us about appearances. Remember the wolf in sheep's clothing. The wolf wasn't snarling. He pretended to be a gentle sheep. He moved among the flock to hide his real plan. People long ago knew that bad intentions don't always look bad. Sometimes, they were a disguise of kindness. Imagine you're planning a group project. Someone charming says, "Oh, I'll totally do all the research for our part." You feel relieved. But when it's time to finish, they haven't done a thing. Their words, delivered with a nice smile, were not true. That initial relief turns into confusion. It shows how a friendly front can hide an absence of truth. This makes us wonder, how can we truly know what's real? Truth isn't just about the words. It's about the heart behind them. And if actions match what's said, we learn to look deeper than just a pleasant face. We trust that quiet feeling in our gut, even when everything seems fine. Sometimes, the most confusing paths are paved with the friendliest intentions. Understanding this helps us see the world more clearly. Old photos, new meanings. Have you ever looked at an old photograph, maybe from when you were little, and suddenly seen something different in it? The picture itself hasn't changed. The faces, the background there, all exactly as they were. But you have changed. You know more now. And because of that, the truth held within that moment can shift, becoming something new, or even a little bit unknowable in its first form. Here's the thing. Photos are like whispers from the past, showing us a slice of time, but our minds are always adding to them. Think about history. When we look at pictures from a century ago, we see them through our modern eyes. We know what happened next. The people in those pictures didn't know their future. So, the simple moment they lived, captured forever, gets layered with our knowledge of the history that unfolded after. What was once a simple happy gathering might now seem like a poignant moment before a big change. It's like looking at a picture of your old elementary school class. You remember the day it was taken, everyone trying to smile. Years later, you might hear that one person moved away, or another faced a tough time. That smiling face now holds a different story for you. The original, simple truth of just a group of kids fades, replaced by something richer, more complicated. You can't unknow what you've learned, and that's why it matters. The past isn't just fixed images. Our understanding of it is always moving. Like clouds across the sun, we keep learning, and as we do, the clear, simple truths we thought we knew about old moments can gently melt away. They leave us with deeper, sometimes more beautiful, but often less certain meanings. It makes you wonder how many truths are like that, waiting for a new piece of information to change everything. When our eyes play tricks, have you ever looked at something, really looked, and then realized you were seeing it all wrong? What if the very first step to knowing the truth, seeing with our own eyes, isn't as solid as we think? It's kind of a strange idea, isn't it? Our eyes are amazing, sure. They take in light, color, shape. But here's the thing, our eyes don't actually see the world. Not really. They collect information like a camera. It's our brain that takes all that light and turns it into the picture we understand. And sometimes, our brain gets a little creative. It fills in gaps, makes educated guesses based on what it expects to see, or what it wants to see. For thousands of years, people have puzzled over this. Thinkers from long ago would sit and wonder, is what I see truly real? Or is it just my brain's version of real? This isn't just about magic tricks or simple optical illusions, though those are great examples. It's about how deeply personal our view of the world can be. Think about that famous picture of the dress a few years ago. Some people saw it as blue and black. Others swore it was white and gold. The actual light hitting everyone's eyes was the same, but their brains, dealing with shadows and colors in different ways, created completely different truths. Two people, looking at the exact same image, experienced two different realities, and that's why it matters. If even something as simple as a color can be so different from one person to the next, then what about bigger, more complex ideas? This shows us that truth isn't always out there, perfectly clear for everyone to grab. Sometimes, it lives inside our own heads, shaped by how our unique brain works. It teaches us to be humble about what we think we know, and maybe to listen a little closer to how others see the world, because their truth might be just as real as ours. The way a mood can change it. Have you ever noticed how the same day, the same event, can feel totally different just because of how you feel inside? Our mood is like a special filter. Everything we see or hear passes through it. So, a fact can seem to change depending on our mood. Think about it. If you wake up feeling grumpy, even small things seem like big problems. Your toast burns, a shoelace breaks. In a good mood, you'd just shrug it off. But when you're down, it feels like the world is against you. The simple truth of the burnt toast, it just got too hot, feels like everything is going wrong. People have thought about this for a very long time. Ancient thinkers talked about how strong feelings can make it hard to see clearly. New emotions could cloud our judgment. This means feelings can make us believe things that aren't quite real, or not the full truth. It's not that the fact itself changes, but how we understand it, how we feel it. Here's an example. Imagine your friend sends you a text with just okay. If you're feeling happy, you might think they just replied quickly, no big deal. But if you've been feeling anxious, that same okay might suddenly seem cold, even angry. You might make up stories in your head, all based on how you were feeling. The truth of the text, just okay, gets reshaped by your emotions. So, the way a mood can change it means truth isn't always a solid block. It's more like water, taking the shape of the container it's in, and that container is often our emotional state. Knowing this helps us pause. It helps us remember that what feels true right now might be mostly our mood talking. That's okay. Just notice it. This helps us be kinder to ourselves and others, understanding we all see the world through different, shifting filters. A promise left unspoken. Have you ever had a feeling about something deep inside that you never quite put into words? Maybe a quiet understanding with a friend, or a hope you kept just for yourself. Here's the thing, sometimes truth doesn't get lost because someone lied. It simply fades away because it was never fully spoken, never written down, never quite shared. It's like a whisper that vanishes before anyone can truly hear it. Think about ancient times. Long ago, before books were common, people passed down history and wisdom through stories. They told tales around campfires, sang songs, and shared knowledge from parent to child. But what if a storyteller forgot a part, or a whole generation didn't listen closely? That piece of truth, that detail, or even an entire belief system, could just disappear. It was never a lie. It was just a promise of knowledge left unspoken. And so it was lost. Consider something closer to home. Imagine a special friendship. You might feel a deep bond, a shared understanding that doesn't need constant talking. You just know certain things about each other, or you think you do. But what if one of you moves away, or a disagreement comes up? Without those unspoken feelings ever being named, those quiet promises, things can get confused. That quiet truth, the one you both just felt, becomes harder to remember, harder to hold on to. It wasn't a lie that broke the connection. It was the truth that was never quite given a voice, and that's why it matters. It reminds us that truth isn't just about facts written in books. It's also in the quiet understandings, the traditions passed down, the feelings we share. When we don't honor these unspoken parts of life, by giving them a voice, by listening carefully, by remembering, we risk losing them forever. The quiet things, the truths that aren't shouted, can sometimes be the most fragile and the most important to try and keep. Just a rumor that grew. Have you ever heard a story about someone, and then, a few days later, it sounds completely different? Maybe it started as a small whisper, but then it grew into something huge and not quite true. This is one way truth can fade away, becoming unknowable because a rumor took its place. Here's the thing, a piece of information, even if real at first, can change as it passes from person to person. You tell a friend something simple. Your friend tells another, maybe adding a detail. That second friend tells someone else, perhaps forgetting parts or making it sound more exciting. It's not usually on purpose. Each time the story is shared, it shifts. It's like a secret whispered across a room, becoming something else entirely by the end. Think about old legends. Maybe a real event happened long ago. Perhaps someone saw a large animal in the mist. Over hundreds of years, as these stories were told, details stretched. The large animal became a dragon. The original truth, if it even existed, got buried under layers of imagination, becoming unknowable, hidden within the tale. Here's an example. Someone says, Liam got a new skateboard. Simple, but then one person hears, Liam got a super cool new skateboard. The next hears, Liam got a super cool, really expensive skateboard. Soon, people are saying, Liam's parents bought him a designer, rare skateboard. The original truth is lost, drowned out by these details. It makes you think, doesn't it, how fragile truth can be. It's not always about big lies, but tiny changes. A rumor isn't always meant to deceive. Sometimes, it's just a story getting lost in the telling. So, when you hear something, pause and consider its source. Because sometimes, truth just washes away, like sand in the tide, leaving only a distorted echo. What we don't ask about, what we don't ask about. Have you ever thought about the questions we don't ask? Not the ones we try to answer, but the ones that never even form in our minds. Here's the thing, sometimes, truth doesn't hide. It just sits quietly, waiting for someone to notice it enough to ask. This is how some truths become unknowable, not because they're buried, but because we never even looked in their direction. Think about stories from the past. History books tell us about big events and famous people. But what about the millions of ordinary people? What were their days truly like? What did they believe? For a long time, many stories, especially from women or people of different cultures, simply weren't recorded. It wasn't always a plot to hide them. Often, the people writing history just didn't think to ask about those lives. Their questions focused elsewhere. So, those truths, those experiences, became whispers that faded, unknowable to us, because no one thought to write them down. Here's a simpler way to think about it. Imagine your own family. You might know a lot about your parents or grandparents, but do you know their biggest dreams when they were your age? Or a secret talent they once had, but never pursued? Maybe your grandma was an amazing artist, but life took her in a different direction. If you never ask her about her hobbies from long ago, that part of her truth stays hidden from you. It's not a secret she's keeping. It's just a question you haven't asked. This idea reaches into science. For centuries, people thought the Earth was the center of the universe. They kept asking, how do the stars move around us? But the moment someone bravely asked, what if we are moving around the sun? A whole new truth opened up. It changed everything. So, sometimes, the deepest truths are found in the silences, in the spaces where we thought we knew enough. It's a quiet reminder that our curiosity isn't just about finding answers. it's also about finding the right questions, especially the ones we haven't even dreamed of yet. That's where new understanding begins. The power of just one voice. Have you ever stopped to wonder if one single voice can truly change the way we see the world? Or, more deeply, if the absence of a voice, or the strength of just one, can make truth harder to find? Here's the thing, sometimes, truth feels like a huge, complicated puzzle with many pieces. But imagine if only one person held a piece, and everyone else just listened to that one person. What if that single piece was the only one ever shared? Think about history. We learn a lot from history. We believe what we read, but who wrote those books? What if the person telling the story left out an important part, or didn't know the whole picture? For a long time, only certain voices were allowed to write history, often powerful voices, or those of war winners. So, the stories we inherited, the truths we learned, were often incomplete. The voices of ordinary people, or people who were defeated, were just not heard. And that's why it matters. When a voice is silenced, or never gets a chance to speak, a piece of truth goes missing. Consider a simpler example, something you might see every day. Imagine a group of friends trying to decide what movie to watch. One friend is very loud, and keeps saying they want to watch a certain film. No one else speaks up, even if they have different ideas or worries about that movie. So, that one loud voice decides for everyone. The truth of what the group really wanted is never known. It's lost in the noise, or in the silence of others. When only one side of a story is told, or when the voices that know a different side are ignored, the full truth can slowly fade away. It becomes cloudy, hard to grasp. It reminds us that truth isn't just about facts. It's also about listening to all the whispers, all the different experiences. It teaches us to seek out those quieter voices, because they often hold missing pieces of the real story, pieces that can help make truth whole again. Standing far from the action, have you ever tried to see something really far away, like tiny shapes moving in the distance, and you just can't quite make out what they are? Here's the thing about truth. Sometimes, just like those distant shapes, truth becomes unknowable simply because we're too far from it. Not just in miles, but in time, or even in our own feelings. Think about history. We read about events that happened hundreds, even thousands of years ago. We have books and old writings, but can we ever truly know exactly what it felt like to be there? What all the little details were? The people who wrote it down had their own views, their own blind spots. Over time, those events become like a faded photograph. We see the outline, but the sharp edges, the exact light, the true emotion, they often fade away. So, the complete truth can feel just out of reach. Imagine you're watching a big football game from the very top row of the stadium. You can see the whole field, the plays unfolding, but you can't hear the players talking. You can't see the sweat on their faces, or the exact look in their eyes when they make a tough catch. You see the result of the action, but not the intense struggle, the tiny movements, or the quick decisions that happen up close. You understand the game, but not every tiny truth of that moment. You're too far to feel the impact, to know the true story of each tackle, and that's why it matters. Sometimes, the further we stand from something, whether it's an old event, a person's private struggle, or even a big idea still being explored, the harder it is to grasp its full, real truth. It reminds us that our view is always from somewhere, and sometimes, that somewhere is just too far away to really know it all. It's okay to admit we don't know everything. It makes us a little more patient, a little more humble about what we think we understand. When silence hides it all, have you ever wondered about the things that aren't said? What about the moments when a whole truth is sitting right there, but no one speaks it aloud? Sometimes, truth doesn't vanish. Instead, it hides in the quiet spaces, in the things we choose not to say. Here's the thing. Silence isn't always empty. It can be a heavy cloak, covering up parts of a story, or even a whole story itself. Think about history. We read books about the past, and we learn so much, but often, entire voices were silenced. People weren't allowed to speak, or their experiences were never written down. So, parts of what truly happened remain a mystery, buried not by time, but by the absence of sound, the absence of words. It's like when you have a secret, and you decide not to tell anyone. You might think you're protecting yourself, or someone else, and in that quiet choice, the full picture of what's happening, what you're feeling, never becomes known. Your friends might see a piece of the puzzle, but the most important part, the one you hold inside, stays hidden by your silence. Or imagine a scientist looking at data, but some key measurements were simply never taken. The full answer stays out of reach because the necessary information was never voiced or recorded. So, silence can be a powerful force. It can guard important things, but it can also make a truth become unknowable. It makes us think about what's missing, about the echoes of unsaid words, and it reminds us that sometimes the deepest truths exist not in grand declarations, but in the quiet, empty spaces where nothing is ever truly revealed. The past we can't get back. Have you ever tried to remember something from a long, long time ago? Maybe your first day of school, or a trip you took when you were very young. You might remember bits and pieces, certain feelings, or bright flashes. But can you truly remember every single laugh, every whispered word, every exact smell and sound? Probably not. And that's because the past, in its truest form, is often something we can't ever truly get back. Here's the thing. Time moves forward, always, and as it moves, it changes things. It's not just about forgetting, though that happens a lot. It's also about how our memories shift and blend, like paint in water. The exact moment, that perfect snapshot of what was, floats away from us. We try to hold on to it, to rebuild it with stories and old pictures, but the real, living moment is gone. Don't think about history itself. We read about ancient civilizations, about kings and queens, or great battles. We have old writings and broken statues and historians. They work so hard to piece together what happened. They gather clues, they try to understand old customs, and they tell a story. But it's always a story based on what survived. The everyday sounds, the forgotten people, the emotions of a crowd that day. Those things vanished into the air. The truth of that time, in all its messy, living detail, is mostly lost. We can't just step into it. It's a little like a sandcastle on the beach. You build it, and it's perfect for a moment. But then the tide comes in, or the wind blows. Parts crumble. You can take a photo, sure, but the actual sandcastle, that exact shape and feeling, it's washed away. Your memory of it and the photo are just echoes. They aren't the sandcastle itself. So, when we look back, we're not looking at a perfectly preserved scene. We're seeing reflections, echoes, and sometimes even inventions of our own minds. And that's okay. This might work for you. Understanding this can remind us to appreciate the present, to really feel what's happening now, because this very moment is the only one we truly possess, before it too becomes a part of the beautiful, untouchable past. Truth that feels too heavy. Have you ever felt a truth waiting, but it seemed too big, too sad, or too scary to even touch? Here's the thing. Truth sometimes becomes unknowable, not because it's hidden, but because we, or our minds, push it away. It's a truth that feels too heavy to carry. Think about it like this. For ages, people have talked about certain kinds of knowledge. In old stories, sometimes heroes would learn a terrible prophecy, knowing it didn't help them. It just made things worse. That kind of truth can feel overwhelming. It makes us feel small or helpless. So, sometimes, we turn our faces from it. We avoid looking directly at it. Here's an example that might make sense. Imagine you've had a pet for a long, long time. They're getting old, and you know, deep down, that they won't be with you much longer. This truth is very real, not a secret, but truly letting it sink in feels incredibly sad and heavy. So, what do? Often you focus on playing with them, feeding them, giving them love. You enjoy the moment. You don't ignore the truth entirely, but you certainly don't dwell on it every minute. Your mind, in a way, protects you from constant pain, making that future truth harder to fully grasp, even when you know it's coming. And that's why it matters. Some truths are so painful, so difficult, that our brains, or even our minds, gently shield us from their full force. They don't disappear. They are still there. But for a time, they might sit just out of reach, in a kind of soft fog, until we are ready, or perhaps never truly ready, to hold its full weight. It's a quiet way. Truth can become unknowable. Not gone, but just out of reach, because it hurts too much to truly know. Things we guess are true. Have you ever stopped to wonder how much of what we believe is actually, truly known? Or is it more like things we just guess are true? Here's the thing. A lot of what we build our understanding of the world on isn't something we can prove with 100% certainty. It's often based on really good ideas, careful observations, and strong evidence. But there's always a tiny whisper of what if. It's like building a tall tower, knowing the first brick isn't cemented, but resting on solid ground we hope is bedrock. Think about how people once viewed the sky. For thousands of years, most cultures believed the sun revolved around the earth. It just looked that way. This was a common guess. Then, later, thinkers like Copernicus and Galileo used new observations. They suggested maybe the earth goes around the sun instead. This was a huge idea that challenged what everyone thought they knew. For ages, the earth being the center was accepted. Consider how you know a friend likes a certain band. You've heard them talk about it, seen their playlist. Maybe they wear the band's t-shirts. You're pretty sure they like the band. You have reasons to believe it. But unless you've asked them directly, and they said yes, it's a strong guess. It's a belief based on evidence, not a proven fact. You infer it, and that's okay. It doesn't mean these guesses are bad or wrong. It just means that sometimes our truths are built on layers of understanding that feel solid, but might shift over time. It makes us pause and think. It reminds us to be gentle with what we think. We know, and always stay curious, always open to new light. Sometimes, the biggest truths start as quiet guesses. The shadow of doubt. Have you ever felt completely sure about something, only to have a tiny whisper of doubt creep in? That feeling, like a tiny cloud passing over the sun, is doubt. It doesn't make something untrue, but it can make the truth harder to see, or even make us wonder if it's there at all. It's like looking at something important, but a light shadow falls across it, making the details less clear. Think about René Descartes, a really smart thinker from a long time ago. He decided to doubt everything he thought he knew. He questioned his senses, his memories, even if he was really awake or just dreaming. He wanted to find something, anything, he could be absolutely certain of. It was like he was trying to clean the slate, to build a solid foundation of truth from the ground up. By first asking, can I truly know this? His journey showed that even our own minds can cast shadows on what we believe to be true. Here's an example you might know. Imagine a friend tells you a story about something that happened at school. You believe them completely. But then, another friend tells you something slightly different about the exact same event. Suddenly, a little doubt pops up. Was the first friend wrong? Did they misunderstand? Or is the second friend confused? The facts of what happened might not have changed, but your certainty about them has. Your clear picture of what happened now has a blurry edge, a small, unsettling question mark hovering over it. This isn't about saying everything is false, or that you should doubt all the time. But here's the thing. When doubt enters, it changes how we see things. It can make a clear truth feel less solid, less definite. It reminds us that even when we think we know, there's always a space for questioning. A quiet corner where certainty might just fade into a shadow, making truth seem just a little further out of reach. Losing the path to know. Have you ever tried to remember something from a really long time ago, but the details just wouldn't come clear? Like a dream that fades the moment you wake up. Here's the thing. Sometimes, the path to knowing a truth can simply vanish. It's not that someone is hiding it, or that it's too hard to understand. Instead, the way to reach that truth just disappears. Think about it like this. Ancient history. We have stories from thousands of years ago, passed down through generations, but imagine a scroll that crumbles into dust, or a spoken tale that changes a little bit every time it's told. Over hundreds of years, the original meaning can become unclear, or even completely lost. We might find bits and pieces, but the full picture, the true first version, is just out of our reach. It's like a song that only exists in old, scratchy recordings, and the original artist isn't around to tell us how it really sounded. This isn't just about old times, though. Here's a quick example. Imagine your great-grandparent had a secret recipe for the most amazing cookies. They taught it to your grandparent, who taught it to your parent. But maybe a tiny detail was forgotten in one step, or a measurement was slightly off. That original, perfect cookie taste, it might be gone forever, not because anyone wanted to lose it, but because the exact steps were just lost along the way. The truth of that original flavor becomes unknowable, and that's why it matters. Sometimes, the truth isn't hidden. It's simply beyond us now. The connections are broken, the records are gone, or the memories have faded into whispers. It's a quiet kind of unknowing, a gentle reminder that not every question has an answer. And sometimes, that's just part of life. The mirror that warps. Have you ever looked in a funhouse mirror and seen yourself stretched tall or squeezed wide? It's still you, but not quite. This is like how truth can get twisted, hard to recognize. The mirror that warps isn't glass. It's how our minds, or what we've learned, change what we see. We might think we're seeing the whole truth, but our view can be bent without us knowing it. For ages, people believed the sun went around the earth. It seemed true, as the sun rises and sets around us. Smart thinkers like Aristotle, from ancient Greece, taught this. It was accepted truth for thousands of years. But then, scientists like Copernicus and Galileo looked closer. They gathered new facts and realized the earth actually goes around the sun. This challenged a very old, deeply held truth. It shows how what we believe can be a reflection, but a warped one, shaped by what we've always been told. Here's an example. You and a friend watched the same soccer game. Afterwards, you might remember different things. Maybe you loved the goals, and your friend focused on a bad call. Was there one true version? Yes, but your brains warped the mirror, focusing on different parts. What felt like the absolute truth to you was only part of it. Seen through your own lens, it makes you think, doesn't it? How many truths do we believe because we've only ever seen them through a specific, perhaps slightly twisted, mirror? It's not about being wrong. It's about understanding that our view, our experiences, and history can shape what we accept as fact. The truth might always be more complex, more fluid, than what first appears in our reflection. When everyone believes wrong, have you ever wondered what happens when almost everyone believes something that isn't quite true? It's a strange thought, right? But here's the thing. Sometimes, a common belief can become so strong, so widely accepted, that the real truth gets lost. It's not that people are trying to be wrong. It's just that the idea has settled in like an old friend, and nobody questions it much. Think about the time, long ago, when most people truly believed the earth was flat. Imagine that. For centuries, smart people, regular folks, everyone, looked at the world and decided it was a flat plane, maybe with edges you could fall off. And if someone suggested the earth was round, like a giant ball, they might have been laughed at, or worse. The truth that our world is a sphere orbiting the sun was always there, floating in space, but it was incredibly hard to see it, to prove it, and even harder to convince everyone else. The power of what everyone believed overshadowed what was actually real. Here's another example. Many people still think lightning never strikes the same place twice. It's a common saying. You hear it and it sounds wise, but that's not actually true. Lightning strikes tall buildings like the Empire State Building many times a year. So, something that sounds like a fact, something many believe, can just be a widespread mistake. And that's why it matters. It teaches us something deep about truth. Sometimes, truth isn't loud or obvious. It can be quiet, waiting for someone to look a little closer, to think a little differently. It reminds us to keep our minds open, to always be curious, and to gently question even the things that seem most certain. Because sometimes, the world's biggest truths are hiding right beneath what everyone already thinks they know. Only seeing one side. Have you ever looked at something and felt totally sure about what it was, only to find out later that someone else saw it completely differently? It's a strange feeling, like the ground shifted under your feet. This is one of the quiet ways truth can become harder to grasp, when we only ever look from our own spot. Think about it like this. Truth isn't always a solid, unchanging stone. Sometimes, it's more like a mountain. If you stand on one side, you see lush, green forests and a gentle slope. That's your truth. But from the other side, someone else might see jagged rocks and a steep, snowy peak. Their truth is just as real to them. Neither person is lying, but neither holds the full picture either. And because they only saw their own part, the true nature of the whole mountain becomes unknowable to both. This idea isn't new. Ancient Greek thinkers often talked about how our individual experiences shape what we believe. They knew that two people could witness the same event and honestly tell very different stories. Maybe one person was focused on a sound, while the other was watching a color. Both are part of the truth, but when you only have one part, the whole truth stays hidden, like a secret whispered in the wind. Imagine you and a friend are looking at a messy room. You might see all the clothes on the floor and think, this is a disaster, it needs to be cleaned right now. Your friend, though, might see all the books neatly stacked on the shelf and think, It's not so bad. Look how organized the books are. You both see the room, but your focus, your side, makes you understand it in totally different ways. The full truth of the room's state is a blend of both views, and perhaps even more. So, when we close ourselves off, when we refuse to step around the mountain and see the other side, we limit our own understanding. The truth doesn't vanish, but it becomes clouded, incomplete. It sits just out of reach, waiting for us to open our eyes to more than just our own small window on the world. And that's why it matters to try and see with new eyes, to listen to other stories, and to know that our own view is just one piece of a much larger, often surprising, puzzle. The story that never was. Have you ever thought about the stories that never get told? Not just forgotten ones, but stories that never even had a chance to become known. This is a strange idea, right? We usually think truth is out there, waiting to be found. But sometimes, a truth simply doesn't exist for us, because it was never formed, never seen, never written down. Imagine, for a second, a tiny creature living millions of years ago. It lived, it breathed, but maybe it was so small, or lived in such a place, that it left no fossil, no trace, or its kind died out before humans ever appeared. We have no way to know it ever existed. That creature's story, its life's truth, is a story that never was. For us, it vanished into the echoes of time, unheard. Think about ancient libraries, like the one in Alexandria. Fires, wars, disasters, they destroyed countless scrolls. Imagine the ideas, the poems, the scientific discoveries that vanished into smoke. We can guess at what was lost, but the specific words, the exact thoughts, those stories never reached us. They were real once, but now, they exist only as an empty space. A quiet what if in our history. Here's a simple way to think about it. Picture a quiet afternoon you spent alone last summer. Maybe you just watched clouds, or read a book, or walked in the park. No one else was there. You didn't take a photo, and you never told anyone about it. Over time, even you might forget the exact details, the way the light fell, the specific thought you had. That moment, that afternoon's truth, slowly becomes a story that almost never was, even for you. And if you completely forget it, and no one else knew, then for the rest of the world, that specific truth never truly happened. So, here's the thing. Sometimes, truth isn't just hidden. Sometimes, it simply never formed into something knowable. It's like a whisper carried away by the wind before anyone could hear it. This isn't meant to make you sad. Instead, it can make you feel more curious about the stories we do have. It helps us appreciate the books, the memories, the history we've managed to keep. It shows us how fragile knowledge can be, and how special it is when a truth gets to be known, to be shared, to be remembered. It's a quiet reminder that the world holds many mysteries, some of which will forever stay just beyond our reach, beautiful in their unknowable silence. How anger blinds us. Have you ever felt so incredibly angry that your whole world seemed to shrink? Maybe your breath got short, and your thoughts raced. It's like a thick fog rolling in, isn't it? When we're angry, our minds focus so sharply on what made us upset that it pushes everything else away. The truth, the full picture of what happened, can become hidden. It's not that the truth vanishes, it's just that we can't see it anymore. Our own strong feelings block the light. We only see the part that fuels our anger, and we miss all the other colors and details of the situation. Thinkers throughout history have talked about this. They understood that powerful emotions, especially anger, can be like a strong current, pulling us away from clear thinking. They saw how easily our minds can get trapped in a loop of blame and frustration. It's an old idea that mastering our emotions is part of seeing the world as it truly is. Without distortion, imagine you're playing a video game, and you get really frustrated because you keep losing. You might start making careless mistakes, yelling at the screen, or blaming the game itself. When you're in that angry state, you can't think clearly about strategies or patterns in the game. You're so focused on the feeling of losing that you can't see how to win. The truth of how to play better is right there, but your anger acts like a huge barrier, making it unknowable in that moment. And that's the thing about anger. It can make us feel powerful for a moment, but it also takes away our ability to truly understand. It blinds us, not physically, but to the wider world, to other viewpoints, and even to parts of ourselves. To see clearly again, sometimes the first step is just to breathe and let the storm begin to pass. Only then can the fog lift and the truth in its many forms, start to appear again. Time stealing clarity. Have you ever tried to remember something that happened a long time ago, maybe from when you were very little, or perhaps a story someone told you years back? Here's the thing, as time passes, the sharp edges of memories can soften, details start to fade. What felt so real and clear in the moment can become hazy, like a photograph left out in the sun. This is one way truth becomes unknowable. Time slowly, quietly, steals its clarity. Think about history. We read about ancient civilizations, about kings and queens, or great battles. We have old writings and artifacts. But how much of that is the exact, unchangeable truth? Over hundreds or thousands of years, stories get retold. Different people write things down from their own viewpoints. Papers crumble, ink fades, and sometimes parts are lost forever. We try our best to piece together what happened, but the further back we look, the more blurry the true picture becomes. It's like trying to see the bottom of a deep lake on a cloudy day. The original facts are there, somewhere, but there, hidden beneath layers of time and changing perspectives. Here's an example you might know. Imagine a really interesting story or a rumor that spread around your school last year. At first, everyone knew the exact details. But now, if you ask 5 different people about it, you might get 5 slightly different versions. Some parts are forgotten, some are mixed up with other events, and some might even be accidentally changed. Was it ever truly clear? And what parts of it are still true today, after all that time? It's hard to say. So time doesn't lie to us, but it does change how we see things. It teaches us that truth isn't always a solid, unchanging stone. Sometimes, the clearest truth is simply recognizing that the past is a shifting landscape, and some things are just lost to the long, quiet journey of days. The weight of what's unsaid. Have you ever kept a secret? Not because it was bad, but because it felt too heavy to share. Or maybe you just couldn't find the right words. Sometimes, truth doesn't just disappear, it gets held back. It becomes the silent space between what is said and what isn't. And what isn't spoken can be just as powerful, perhaps even more so, than what is. It carries its own quiet weight. Imagine a story you're reading. If the writer leaves out a big piece of information, like why a character acts a certain way, that missing part changes everything. It changes how you see the character, how you understand their choices. The silence doesn't just leave a blank space, it creates a different picture entirely. The full truth isn't gone, but it's hidden by the storyteller's choice not to speak it. This makes the real story harder to grasp. This idea stretches back into history. Historians look at the words written in old records, but they also wonder about the words that aren't there. Why did someone not write about a big event? Were they afraid? Did they want to forget? Sometimes, the silence from the past tells us about fear or forgotten ideas. It makes parts of history unknowable to us now. The truth was there, perhaps, but it dissolved into quiet. It left only shadows. It's much like being upset with a friend, but not saying anything. You just act a little distant. That unsaid feeling, that unspoken truth, sits between you both. It might grow, creating quiet tension, a strange barrier. The truth isn't lost, it's just heavy and hidden. It changes the friendship in ways neither of you named. It's still there, influencing things, but it's covered by the quiet. This makes the real source of the trouble hard to grasp. So, these quiet spaces, the words left unspoken, they are never truly empty. They hold a kind of presence, a silent pressure. They can shape understanding, create distance, or leave a lasting question mark. Sometimes, truth doesn't vanish. It simply becomes heavy, waiting in the silence. This makes the world a place where some truths just feel out of reach, not because they're hidden in darkness, but because they're simply unsaid. A tiny detail missed. Have you ever noticed how sometimes the smallest thing can change everything, like a tiny ripple on a calm pond, shifting the whole surface? It's strange, but truth itself can become unknowable, not from a big lie, but a tiny detail we simply miss. Our minds are amazing, but they don't catch every bit of information. We see, hear, feel, but our brains choose what to focus on. Here's the thing, sometimes, the detail our brain doesn't highlight that quiet whisper or faint shadow holds. The real key. Think about old stories passed down through generations. Someone tells a story, then another person tells it, and maybe they leave out one small part, a character's true feelings, or the exact reason an event happened. That tiny omission might seem unimportant, but over time, that small missing piece grows. It shifts the meaning. What was once clear becomes fuzzy, or completely different. The original truth, hidden in that forgotten word, becomes hard to find, maybe impossible. Here's an example from everyday life. Imagine you're watching a plant grow. You measure its height, water, and sunlight. But what if you forget to note the room's temperature each day? A tiny detail, right? It might not seem like a big deal, but when the plant doesn't grow as expected, you can't figure out why. That one small detail you missed was the missing piece. Without it, the truth of its growth stays out of reach. So, truth isn't always lost in a dramatic way. Often, it just quietly slips away, piece by piece, like sand through your fingers. It makes you wonder how much of what we know is built on assumptions, or on a picture with crucial pieces gone. It reminds us to be gentle with our certainty. The full story might always be just beyond our grasp, hidden in a detail we overlooked. When trust just breaks, have you ever felt like you just couldn't believe someone anymore? It's hard to know what's real when you can't trust the person telling you. And here's the thing, when trust breaks, truth can become incredibly hard to find. Imagine someone you relied on, someone who always seemed to know facts. If they suddenly change their stories, or you find out they lied, what happens to what you thought you knew? It all becomes shaky, doesn't it? The ground under your feet feels uncertain. Long ago, thinkers like the ancient Greeks believed societies needed honesty. If you couldn't trust your neighbor or leader, how could you agree on what was true for everyone? Their wisdom reminds us that trust isn't just a feeling. It's a necessary path to shared understanding. Without it, confusion grows. Think about a news article you read online. You might believe it at first, but then, if you find out the source often shares false information, or the person posting it makes things up, what happens to that fact? It stops being a fact. It becomes a question mark. Even if the information might be true, if the messenger isn't trusted, the message loses its power to be known as truth. It's like trying to cross a river on a bridge with holes. You see the other side, but you can't get there safely because the path is broken. When trust just breaks, truth isn't necessarily gone, but it feels hidden, veiled by doubt. We're left wondering, searching, unsure of what to believe. Knowing something isn't just about the facts, but also about the faith we place in where those facts come from. And that's why it matters to be careful with our trust, both in others and in ourselves. The truth in a whisper. Have you ever played that game where you whisper a secret message around a circle? It starts so clear, so simple. Maybe it's the blue bird flies over the tall oak tree. By the time it gets back, it's something entirely different. Maybe the new herd lies on the cold lake street. Here's the thing, truth can sometimes work like that. It starts as a clear thought, a pure fact, but as it travels, as it's shared and reshared, it can become something else. People don't usually mean to lie. Often, it's just a tiny misunderstanding, a forgotten detail, or a word misheard. Imagine an ancient story, told around campfires for hundreds of years. The first storyteller saw something real. They told their child, who told their child, and so on. Over time, little bits got added, or forgotten, or changed, to make the story fit a new audience. The original truth, that raw observation, slowly faded. It became a beautiful legend, yes, but no longer the exact truth. This happens with our own memories. To think about something important that happened to you years ago. If you tell the story often, you might emphasize different parts, or recall it slightly differently each time. Our minds aren't perfect cameras, and that's okay. But it means the truth of that moment can shift, soften, like a worn photograph. So, when truth becomes a whisper, it's not always lost completely. It just changes shape. It gets softer, less defined, sometimes even more poetic. But that softness, that gentle shift, is how the sharp edges of facts can blur. It makes us wonder, what was the original sound, that first pure note, before the world started whispering it? It's a quiet reminder that what we hear, what we believe, has often traveled a long way, changing a little with every breath. Knowing that makes us hold on to the clear, first sounds of truth with more care. Too many voices talking. Have you ever been in a room where everyone is talking at once? Maybe a busy hallway, or at a family dinner with too many conversations happening right next to you. It's hard to focus. It's hard to hear just one thing. clearly, and that's what happens when too many voices are talking about the same idea or event. It's not that people are trying to lie, but when there are so many stories, so many opinions, so many different versions, the truth can get lost in the noise. It just becomes harder to find. Think about how news traveled long ago. Before phones or the internet, news went by word of mouth. One person told another, who told another, and each time a small detail might change. A little bit added, a little bit forgotten. So, what started as one clear message could become many different versions, like a whisper game played across miles. Even history books, if you read different ones about the same event, can tell the story in slightly different ways. Here's an example. Imagine a school play. You watch it, your friend watches it, and a teacher watches it. Afterwards, you all talk about it. Maybe you thought the main actor was amazing. Your friend might say the ending was confusing, and the teacher might talk about how much hard work went into the costumes. All of you are talking about the same play, but focusing on different parts. You're telling different truths about it. None of you are wrong. So, when the air is thick with sounds and ideas, when every screen shows a different story, it can feel overwhelming. It makes you pause and wonder, and that's okay. It reminds us that truth isn't always a simple path. Sometimes, it's a winding road through many different perspectives. Learning to listen to all those voices, while also thinking for yourself, is a quiet kind of wisdom. It's about being patient with the search. Sometimes, a clear answer is hidden, not by a lie, but by the sheer number of voices trying to share their own truth. Facts that just don't fit. Have you ever seen something that just didn't make sense? Something that went against everything you thought you knew? That feeling is like holding a puzzle piece for a different picture. It's a fact, sure, but it just doesn't fit into the story you're trying to build. In our search for truth, we sometimes find information that clashes with what we already believe. These aren't wrong facts, but they challenge our current understanding. They show our mental picture might not be complete, or perhaps it's even wrong. Think about how people once believed the Earth was the universe's center. For a very long time, this was accepted truth. It made sense. The sun and stars seemed to move around us. But then, smart thinkers like Copernicus and Galileo looked closer. They saw strange paths of planets. These didn't fit the old idea. The facts, their careful observations, didn't line up. It was confusing, even scary for some, to have such a big belief shaken. But these unfitting facts pushed us to see the universe in a new way, helping us understand something much bigger. It's like when you have a friend you trust, and then you hear a story about them that doesn't sound like them at all. Maybe someone says your kind friend was mean to a new kid. It's a fact presented to you, but it clashes so much with what you know of them. You wonder, could it be true, or is there something I don't know? That piece of information, even if jarring, forces you to pause. It makes you question your whole understanding, and that's why it matters. It makes you look deeper. So facts that don't fit aren't always problems. Sometimes, they are whispers, telling us there's more to learn. They invite us to look beyond what we accept, to be curious about the edges of our knowledge. They remind us that the world is always unfolding. Truth can be bigger and more surprising than we first imagine. It's okay for things not to fit right away. It often means a deeper truth is waiting to be found. The puzzle with missing pieces. Have you ever worked on a jigsaw puzzle? Excited to see the picture, only to find some pieces are just gone. That empty space means you can never truly finish it, never see the whole image. Here's the thing. Understanding truth can feel a lot like that. Sometimes, the picture of what's real or what happened has parts that are simply missing. We often try to figure things out by gathering facts and ideas. Think of these as our puzzle pieces. But what if certain facts were never recorded, or they got lost over time? Then the whole truth can't be put together. It's like trying to read a story where whole pages have been ripped out. You get some of it, but not the whole picture. People have thought about this for a long time. Imagine trying to understand ancient times, like how people lived in Rome thousands of years ago. We have old writings, broken statues, ruined buildings, but we don't have everyone's daily diaries or every single conversation. So, our understanding of ancient Rome is based only on what survived, the pieces that made it through time. The rest, gone forever. What it was really like is incomplete. Here's a simpler example from your own life. Imagine your friend is quiet and seems upset, but only tells you part of why. Maybe they just say, "School was hard today." You can't fully understand their sadness without the whole story, all the details that led to it. Those details are the missing pieces. You might try to guess, but your understanding will always be incomplete without all the facts. So, some truths become unknowable not because someone hides them, but because the information needed simply isn't there anymore, or was never there. It's a humbling thought, knowing some parts of the big picture will always be a mystery, lost to time, or never seen, and that's okay. It means we learn to live with mystery and appreciate the pieces we do have. What we choose to forget. Have you ever tried to push a memory away, to simply not think about something that happened, hoping it would disappear? It's a strange thing, this power we have, or maybe it's our mind's quiet way of protecting us. Sometimes, truth becomes unknowable not because it's hidden by others, but because we choose to let it fade. We simply decide not to remember. Here's the thing, our brains are amazing at this. They don't just forget by accident. After a difficult or upsetting experience, our minds work to soften the edges, or tuck the memory away completely. It's like our inner self says, "You don't need to carry that burden right now." People have understood this for a long time. Philosophers might say it's part of healing, of moving forward. Societies too sometimes decide to forget painful parts of their past to build a new future, even if that means ignoring some hard truths. Think about a time you had a rough day at school. Maybe you messed up on a test, or had a disagreement with a friend. In that moment, it feels like the worst thing ever. But as days turn into weeks, that feeling starts to lessen. You might even forget the exact details of what happened, or who said what. It's not that the event didn't happen, but your mind has decided to let that sharp edge dull, or maybe erase the full picture. The painful truth of that specific moment becomes less clear, less present, and that's why it matters. This choosing to forget, whether we do it consciously or our mind does it for us, shapes our personal story. What we hold on to, what we let go of, it changes the truth we carry. It makes us wonder, if we forget something, does it still exist for us? Our understanding of what is real, what is true, shifts with every memory we choose to keep, or let slip away. It's a quiet, powerful act, this letting go of truth. The echo of a half-truth. Have you ever heard something that felt true, but also felt incomplete, like a beautiful melody with a note missing, leaving you unsettled? That's what a half-truth does. It's not a complete lie, but it's not the whole truth either. It gives you some facts, enough to seem believable and trustworthy, but it carefully leaves out important details. And that missing part, that's where the confusion starts, where truth begins to slip away and becomes harder to grasp. Think about it like this. Imagine someone tells you that water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. That's true, right? It's a solid fact. But what if they don't tell you that's only at sea level? If you go up a high mountain, water boils at a much lower temperature. The statement "water boils at 100 degrees Celsius" is a half-truth if you don't add that crucial context. It's technically correct, but it gives you an incomplete picture, making you think it's always the case, no matter where you are. This means, if you're trying to cook something important at a high altitude, or maybe sterilize medical tools, you might think you're getting the water hot enough, but you're not. The half-truth can trick you into making a mistake with real consequences. For centuries, people have understood how powerful partial information can be. Ancient storytellers and leaders often chose what to share and what to hold back, knowing it would deeply shape how people thought and felt. In wartime, for example, a general might tell his troops that the enemy is weak and fleeing, even if it's only a small group retreating, not the whole army. This half-truth can boost morale and create courage, but it also paints a dangerous, incomplete picture of the actual battle ahead. The problem with a half-truth is it creates an echo, a lingering sense of a truth that isn't quite right, like a ghost in the room. It can make you feel like you understand something fully, when really, you're only seeing a shadow of it. And when we only see shadows, the real truth, complex and whole, becomes much harder to find. It reminds us to always look closer, too gently, question, and to seek out all the different voices and pieces of the story before we decide what is real. The full truth often lives in the quiet, unsaid parts we didn't hear. Our own personal lens. Have you ever wondered why two people can look at the same event and understand it completely differently? You might watch a movie with a friend, they love it, you don't. Or, at a school assembly, One is bored, the other inspired. Why? It's because each of us carries a personal lens. This isn't glass, but an invisible filter. It's shaped by everything that makes you, your memories, experiences, feelings, and beliefs. Everything you encounter passes through this unique filter before it settles in your mind. People have thought about this for thousands of years. Ancient thinkers knew truth isn't always a simple, unchanging thing outside us. It gets tinted by our inner world, our perspective. Like looking through different colored glasses. A red lens makes everything reddish. A blue lens, bluish. The world stays the same, but your view changes. Imagine Alex and Ben in the same busy school hallway. Alex just got a great quiz score, feeling happy. To him, the hallway is full of cheerful chatter, friendly faces, vibrant energy. He sees kindness. Ben, moments before, didn't make the soccer team. For him, the same hallway feels loud, chaotic, lonely. Sounds seem like noise. Smiles feel distant. The truth of that hallway, for each, is different, shaped by their feelings. So, how we experience truth is deeply personal. It's woven with our individual lives. This makes the world rich with different stories. It also reminds us that what feels true to one person might not feel true to another. Understanding this helps us be patient and kind, remembering everyone sees life through their own unique lens. When history gets rewritten, have you ever thought about how fragile a memory can be? Or how a story, passed down through time, can slowly change? History feels like a solid thing, like dates and facts carved in stone. But here's the thing, history is also a story. It's the way we remember the past, the way we tell it to each other. And sometimes, those stories get rewritten. This isn't always about lying. Sometimes, new evidence or deeper understanding shifts our view. But often, powerful people or new groups want people to believe a specific version of the past, one that makes them look good or justifies their actions. So, they might change history books, remove old statues, or tell new tales. They highlight certain events while ignoring others completely. This makes finding the real truth incredibly hard. Think about a time you and a friend remembered a shared event differently. Maybe a school trip, or a funny class moment. You both were there, but your memories focus on different details. Now, imagine if one of you could make everyone believe only your version. That's a tiny glimpse of how history can be rewritten on a huge scale. When old stories are replaced, the old truth doesn't just disappear. It gets pushed aside, perhaps forgotten. So, when history gets rewritten, it's not just about changing dates or names. It's about changing how we understand who we are, where we came from, and what we believe is true. It means the path to understanding the past, to finding that original truth, becomes winding and difficult. It reminds us to always question, to seek out different viewpoints, and to understand that even the most solid-seeming facts can sometimes hide a different story. The noise that drowns it out. Have you ever tried to hear a soft whisper when a whole crowd is cheering loudly? Or tried to find a single, tiny star when the bright city lights are all around you? Sometimes, truth is like that whisper, or that star. It's there, it's real, but it gets lost in the noise all around us. This noise isn't always a sound. It's the huge amount of information we get every day. It's all the different opinions, all the stories, all the headlines that flood our minds. Think about the internet. One small fact, one quiet, true idea, can be buried under thousands of posts, videos, and comments. Everyone has something to say, and their voices can become a giant wall of sound, making it hard to hear what's genuinely true. Long ago, thinkers like the Stoics in ancient Greece spoke about finding peace in a chaotic world. They knew that a clear mind was needed to see things as they really were, without the noise of strong emotions or popular beliefs. They understood that if you let too many outside influences control your thoughts, you couldn't find your own inner truth. It's like trying to find your way in a crowded marketplace. You need to focus to see your path clearly. Here's an example. Imagine you're trying to learn about a topic like global warming. You might read a scientific report, which is careful and full of facts, but then you see countless social media posts, news clips, and discussions, some with good intentions, some just trying to get attention. All those different voices, even if some are wrong or misleading, can make the clear scientific truth seem fuzzy. It's not that the truth isn't there, it's just harder to pick out from the overwhelming amount of chatter. So, how do we find the whisper of truth in all that noise. Maybe it means learning to quiet our own minds, to step back from the constant flow of information. It's about taking a moment to breathe, to think, and to ask ourselves, what am I really hearing? What feels simple and true? Beneath all the shouting, it takes a patient heart to listen for the quiet truth. A guess that becomes real. Ever thought how just thinking something will happen can make it happen? It's not magic. It's about how our beliefs, even quiet guesses, gently shape our world. Our minds are powerful. They don't just see reality, they can build it. When we truly believe a guess, we often act in ways that make it come true. Think about old stories. People talked about curses. If a village believed a field was cursed, they wouldn't plant, nothing grew. It proved the curse. But their belief stopped the harvest, not the curse. Thinkers long ago saw this. An idea, even if not true, could guide actions until it felt like a fact. This is expectation. It's what we predict, and how that changes what we do. Imagine waking up feeling today will be terrible. It's just a guess, right? But because you think that, maybe you're less likely to smile. You might assume the worst. If a friend invites you out, you might say no. Sure, it won't be fun. Your day does turn out bad, not due to a hidden force, but because your initial guess created it. That first quiet guess, your belief, pushed everything toward the outcome. So, a truth can become unknowable because our initial thoughts, our quiet predictions, build the very reality we then experience. It's like putting on special glasses. The world looks just as we guessed, and that can be a little chilling, right? Where does the original truth lie? Was the day truly terrible, or did we just make it so? Be careful with those whispers in our minds. They hold a strange, subtle power. The future that isn't here. Have you ever pictured tomorrow in your mind, clear as a photograph? Maybe it's a perfect day, or maybe it's something you dread. We often live with these pictures in our heads. But what if that future you imagine, the one you're so sure will happen, never arrives? What if the truth of tomorrow can never truly be known? See, a lot of what we think about the future isn't solid truth at all. It's made of our hopes, our fears, our careful plans. It's like building a beautiful sandcastle right at the edge of the ocean before the tide comes in. It looks real, but one wave can change everything. For ages, people have searched for ways to know what's next. Ancient cultures looked to the stars or listened to special dreamers, hoping to find a map of what was to come. They wanted to know the absolute truth of their future. But here's the thing, those were always just possibilities, guesses, or wishes. They weren't solid, unchanging facts. Think about it like this. You might plan your whole weekend perfectly. Every hour is mapped out, seeing friends, playing games, finishing a big project. You see it all so clearly in your head. That's your truth for the weekend, right? But then, a sudden rainstorm cancels your outdoor plans, or a friend gets sick unexpectedly, or maybe you just wake up and decide you'd rather do something completely different. The specific weekend you pictured, the one you believed would be true, suddenly isn't. That particular truth vanished, replaced by a different, unplanned reality. This can help you understand that the future isn't a fixed thing waiting for us to simply discover it. It's not a story already written. Instead, it's always being created, moment by moment, by choices and unexpected events. So, the truth of tomorrow is always just out of reach, a shimmering maybe. It's like a whisper on the wind, a shape in the mist, something you can feel but never grasp. And that's why it matters. It means life can endlessly surprise us. It means the deepest truth is often found in the moment we are living, right now, not in some faraway, imagined future that might never be. Why some secrets stay safe. Have you ever wondered why some truths, once known, simply disappear, leaving only a quiet emptiness where they used to be? It's not always about someone trying to hide something, like a forgotten letter or a buried treasure. Sometimes, truth becomes unknowable because the world itself, in its vast, slow turning, just lets it fade. Think about the whispers of history. We learn so much about ancient times, like life in Egypt or the big ideas of Greek philosophers. But there are countless small stories, everyday moments, and personal thoughts from those times that we will never know. It's not that people hid them. It's that scrolls crumbled, memories blurred, and voices fell silent through the centuries. The facts simply got lost to time, or they were never even written down, just lived and then gone. Here's the thing, truth can be fragile, like a drawing made in the sand that the tide washes away. Imagine trying to perfectly remember a dream you had last night. You can grasp bits of it, maybe a feeling or a strange image, but the full story, the exact words, the little details, they just slip away, don't they? That dream isn't being hidden from you. It just naturally becomes unknowable because our minds aren't perfect recorders. It's the same with many secrets. They aren't locked away by a key, but by the quiet workings of time, the limits of human memory, or the sheer vastness of information. That can never all be kept, and that's why it matters. This unknowing isn't always a problem. Sometimes it's a gentle reminder that not every question has an answer waiting to be found. There's a quiet beauty in what remains hidden, in the spaces where imagination can drift, and in understanding that some truths are simply meant to be private, even from history itself. The way hope can mislead us, can something as beautiful as hope ever lead us away from the truth? We often think of hope as a guiding light, pulling us forward, and it is. But here's the thing, sometimes that very light can shine so brightly, makes it harder to see. It can cast shadows on real facts, making uncomfortable truths fade. For centuries, people have wrestled with this idea. Thinkers, even way back, wondered why humans often choose to believe what feels good instead of what is real. It's like our minds want things to turn out well. So, when a harsh truth comes along, one that might crush our dreams, our hope can act like a soft blanket. It covers that truth. We tell ourselves, it'll be okay, or that's not true, not because of evidence, but because the alternative is too painful. Imagine you're trying out for a school play. You desperately want the main role and spend hours imagining yourself on stage. Your hope for the main role feels wonderful, but maybe you're not a strong singer, or you struggle with lines. Your friends might have gently pointed this out. If your hope is so strong you ignore their honest feedback, or tell yourself they're just jealous, then your hope is misleading you. It's making you miss the real truth about your skills, and the work you might need, or even that this role isn't the best fit. So, how does this make truth unknowable? If our hope blinds us to reality, if it makes us deny facts, then we aren't truly seeing what's in front of us. We're living in a world shaped by our desires, not by what is real. It's a quiet way for truth to slip away, not by being hidden, but by us simply choosing not to look. Sometimes, the kindest thing we can do is gently pull back the curtain of hope, just enough to let the light of truth shine in. It helps us grow. Stories told differently. Have you ever noticed how the same event, like a school play or a big game, can sound totally different when two friends talk about it later? It's almost like they saw separate things. One friend remembers the amazing catch, the other might focus on the weird costume malfunction. This isn't because one is lying. It's because truth, the facts of what happened, can look different from where you stand. Here's the thing, stories shape what we believe is true. Think about history. For a long time, the stories of ancient events were written mostly by the powerful people, like kings or conquering armies. Their version became the official truth. But what about the stories of the people they conquered, or the farmers, the everyday folks? Their experiences were often left out, or told very differently. So, the truth we inherited was only one side, carefully chosen. It makes you wonder what else we might be missing, doesn't it? This happens all the time, not just in history books. Imagine two people who grew up in the same small town. One might remember it as a warm, safe place, full of happy memories, but the other might remember it as boring, or maybe even a little lonely. Both are telling their truth about the town. Neither is wrong. It's just that their feelings and experiences colored the story they hold. Their personal lens changed the picture, and that's why it matters. When we hear a story, we often think it's the only one, but there are always other stories, other angles, other ways to see the same moment. This doesn't make truth disappear. It just means truth can be like a jewel with many shining sides. To truly understand, we have to listen to more than one voice, more than one memory. It teaches us to be humble about what we think we know, and open to all the ways truth can echo through different hearts. Not enough proof to know. Have you ever felt that nagging feeling, that whisper in your mind, when you just can't be sure about something? Sometimes, the truth isn't hiding because someone is keeping a secret, or because it's too complicated to understand. Sometimes, it's simply because we don't have enough pieces of the puzzle. Imagine trying to build a castle from a picture, but half the blocks are missing. You can guess what it looks like. You can imagine, but you can't truly know. its true form without all the parts. This is how truth becomes unknowable when proof is scarce. Think about ancient times. What if a great kingdom thrived thousands of years ago, but its cities crumbled to dust, its scrolls turned to ash, and its people left no lasting marks? We might find a few broken pots, a single coin, but the full story, the names of its kings, their lives, that truth might be lost forever, because the evidence simply isn't there. Historians can guess, or piece together fragments, but the full truth is out of reach. It's not about doubt, it's about absence. Here's a simpler idea. Imagine you're trying to figure out what happened to a favorite toy you lost when you were very young. Maybe it disappeared in a move, or a pet carried it away. You might have a vague memory, or your parents might recall a tiny detail. But the full, clear picture of where it went, exactly when, or who last touched it, is probably gone. There's just not enough proof left. And that's okay. So, some truths aren't hidden by secrets, but by the quiet passage of time, by erosion, by simple loss. And that's why it matters. Sometimes, the biggest questions are ones we can only wonder about, not answer. It teaches us a humble wisdom, a quiet acceptance, that not everything can be known, and that's part of life's beautiful mystery. When we just don't care enough. Have you ever been in a situation where you just stopped caring? Maybe it was about a school assignment, a small argument with a friend, or even a complex news story that felt too overwhelming. Here's the thing, when we let that feeling take over, when we stop caring enough to look closely, the truth often slips away. It doesn't vanish entirely from the world, but for us, personally, it becomes unknowable. It's like closing your eyes in a beautiful garden and deciding you don't want to see the colors or the shapes. The garden is still there, but you've chosen not to experience its truth. For a long time in history, people often just accepted what their leaders, teachers, or wise figures told them. They didn't always have a way to check if it was truly accurate. Sometimes, it wasn't about being easily fooled. It was simply about not having the energy, the tools, or even the permission to dig deeper. Think of old stories passed down through generations. The full, exact truth of those events might have been hidden, not by anyone trying to deceive, but by the quiet weight of indifference or the sheer difficulty of finding out more. The real story was there, maybe, but people didn't have the means or the will to search. Consider a simpler example, closer to your own life. Think about that history project you had, the one where you had to research an event. If you didn't really care about getting the details perfectly right, you might have just copied something from the first website you saw. You didn't check other sources, you didn't ask why, or how do we know this? The deeper, more accurate truth about that historical event was still out there in other books and documents. But for you, in that moment, it became unknowable because you didn't put in the effort to find it. You didn't care enough to ask for more. It's a quiet kind of loss, isn't it? The truth still exists, waiting for someone to notice. But if we don't offer our attention, our genuine curiosity, or our effort, it stays hidden from us. It becomes a truth we could have known, a clearer understanding we walked past. And sometimes, that choice, that simple lack of care, can make it feel like the truth was never there at all. It's a gentle reminder that truth often asks for a little bit of us, a quiet willingness to simply care enough to look. The shifting sands of time. Have you ever thought about how time itself can change what we believe is true? It's a strange idea, but here's the thing. Truth isn't always a solid, unchanging stone. Sometimes, it's more like the fine sand on a vast beach. It's there, it's real, but it's always moving, always shifting, shaped by the wind, the tides, and every step that walks across it. When we look back at history, we often try to find the real story, but the past doesn't just sit still. Records get lost, old letters crumble, and memories fade. The people who lived through events are gone, and their personal truths often go with them. What remains are fragments, pieces of a puzzle we try to put together, but many parts are missing. The story we tell about what really happened hundreds of years ago is shaped by our time, our understanding, and our questions. Here's a simple way to see it. Remember a big family story, maybe from when your grandparents were young. Ask two different family members to tell it. You might notice they remember different details, or focus on different parts, or even have different ideas about what it all meant. Both are telling their truth, but time has worked on those memories, like a sculptor gently reshaping clay. No one is wrong. It's just that the past, once it's gone, lives inside us differently. And that's the thing about truth and time. It teaches us a quiet lesson. It reminds us that certainty is sometimes a gentle illusion. It suggests that instead of chasing one fixed truth, we should learn to appreciate the many ways a story can be told, the many ways a memory can be held. It makes us more open to different views, knowing that even the clearest facts can soften at the edges as the years pass by. The question not asked: have you ever felt like there's a part of a story missing? Not because it was hidden, but because no one ever thought to ask about it. Here's the thing: sometimes truth stays unknown not because it's covered up, but because we don't ask the right questions, or we don't even know what question to ask. The truth isn't lost. It's just waiting for curiosity to find it. Think about the past. For a very long time, people believed the earth was flat. It seemed obvious, right? No one truly questioned it for centuries because it just was. They didn't ask, what if the earth is round, and how would that work? When curious minds finally dared to ask such questions, using new tools, a huge truth about our world was uncovered. The idea wasn't hidden. The crucial questions simply hadn't been asked. Here's a simpler way to think about it. Imagine you're at school, and you see a classmate sitting alone at lunch, looking down. You might think, they look sad. You might even walk by, feeling a little bad, but you don't stop. You don't ask, are you okay? Do you want to sit with us? If you don't ask, you might never know the truth. Maybe they're just tired, or waiting for a friend, or maybe they really are sad and needed comfort. Because the question wasn't asked, their true situation remains unknown to you. It's like a quiet room where the most important question hangs in the air, unheard. So much truth remains hidden in plain sight, not by design, but by our own quiet acceptance. True understanding often begins not with answers, but with the courage to ask a question, even one we didn't know we needed to ask. It reminds us to look deeper, to wonder, and to challenge what we think we already know. Lies wrapped in pretty bows. Have you ever noticed how some things just sound so good, so comforting, that you almost want them to be true? It's like a soft whisper telling you exactly what you wish to hear. This is how truth can slip away, hidden inside lies wrapped in pretty bows. These aren't always cruel deceptions. Sometimes they are carefully chosen words or half-truths that paint a picture that isn't quite real, but looks beautiful. Think about it. A plain truth can be harsh, uncomfortable, or just boring. To make it easier to accept, or to get people to believe something, it gets decorated. It's given a lovely story, a comforting feel, or a bright promise. People have done this for ages. From ancient myths explaining the world, to stories leaders tell to inspire. It's about making a difficult message softer, or a false one seem acceptable. Here's an example. Imagine a new snack food. Ads show happy kids, full of energy, biting into this yummy treat. The ad might say, it's a burst of sunshine. Sounds great, right? But the truth might be that the snack is full of sugar and artificial colors, not truly sunshine or healthy fuel. The pretty bow is that image of happiness. The lie is that the snack gives you that. Plain facts get hidden behind bright smiles and catchy jingles. Finding real truth is tricky. We're naturally drawn to beauty and comfort, wanting to believe in the pretty bow. So, here's the thing. We learn to look past the shiny wrapping, to gently peel it back, and see what's truly inside. It's not about cynicism, but thoughtfulness. It's about remembering that the most beautiful story isn't always the most truthful one. Sometimes, truth is quiet, plain, and needs no bows. The world from my window. Imagine you're sitting by your window, looking out. What do you see? Houses, trees, sky. Here's the thing. Someone else, from their own window across the street, might see something totally different. Even looking at the same world. This is a quiet way truth becomes unknowable. It's not hidden. Our own view, our spot, shapes what we see. We look through a window that's ours alone. It's like a unique frame around the world's picture. Long ago, a Greek thinker named Plato wondered about this. He thought we only see part of the truth, like shadows in a cave. Our minds and experiences filter what's real. This isn't just old ideas. Scientists even know how you set up an experiment can change the results. Your view matters. Consider two friends watching a soccer match. One loves the red team, the other the blue. A red team player makes a hard tackle. The red team fan says, "That was a strong, fair play." The blue team fan shouts, "That was a terrible foul." Same event, but their truth became different because of where they stood, who they rooted for. Their personal window colored what they saw. So, the world from your window isn't just what's outside. It's also what's inside you. Your feelings, your past, your hopes. Truth isn't always solid. It can be like water, shifting based on who is looking. That's okay. Knowing this helps us understand why people see things differently. It helps us be more patient, curious about their window, not just our own. When nobody was there, have you ever wondered about things that happened long, long ago, back when no one was around to see them? Imagine the very first flower blooming, or a single snowflake falling onto a vast, empty landscape. Who was there to notice? Who could tell us what that moment was truly like? Here's the thing, for a truth to be known, it often needs a witness, someone to see it, to hear it, to remember it, or to write it down. But what about all the moments, big and small, that occur when absolutely no one is observing? What about events in deep history, before humans existed, or even before life itself? A meteor might have struck the Earth millions of years ago, creating a huge crater. We can see the crater now, but the actual moment of impact, the sound, the dust, the light, that truth belongs only to the past. UNOBSERVED. Think about it like this. If a squirrel buries an acorn in your backyard late at night, when everyone is asleep, how do you know it happened? You might see the disturbed dirt in the morning, a tiny clue, but the exact movements of the squirrel, the quiet scratch of its paws, the feel of the cool night air on its fur, those specific truths are gone. They happened, but they were unrecorded by any watchful eye or memory. This idea touches on something philosophers have thought about for ages. Does something truly exist in the way we understand it, if there's no mind to perceive it? We build our understanding of the world from what we experience and what we are told. But there are countless silent, unseen events that unfold every second, everywhere, and that's why some truths become unknowable. They aren't hidden from us, they simply never had a witness. They are like quiet whispers in the wind, felt only by the air itself, leaving no trace for us to discover. It makes the world feel both full of mystery and, in a way, incredibly private. The path left unexplored. Have you ever wondered about the things we just never see? Not because they're hidden, but because we simply don't look in that direction. Sometimes, truth becomes unknowable, not because someone is trying to hide it, but because we leave the path to it completely unexplored. It's like a quiet room in a big house. No one goes in, so no one knows what's inside. The truth is there, waiting for a curious step. Think about the old days, long ago. For centuries, people believed the earth was flat. It made sense to them. Looking around, the path to understanding around Earth, how ships could sail around it and not fall off, was there. It needed new thinking, brave voyages, and different ways of looking at the stars. No one was hiding the Earth's true shape. It just took explorers, like those who sailed across vast oceans, to step onto an unknown path. Their courage opened up a new truth. Here's the thing, this happens in our own lives too. Imagine you're trying to solve a puzzle. You're sure a certain piece goes in a certain spot. What if you never even pick up that other piece, the one sitting right next to it? Maybe that's the one that fits. Or think about trying to understand why a friend is acting a certain way. You might assume things, right? But if you don't ever ask them, or consider what might be going on in their own life you don't know about, that truth remains a secret. It's not a secret they're keeping from you. It's a secret because you never asked a question, or looked from their perspective. So, sometimes, the truth isn't lost or stolen. It's just waiting on a path we haven't walked down yet. It reminds us there's always more to see, more to learn. Often, important truths are found by daring to look where no one else thought to. It's about the quiet wonder of what lies beyond our usual view. The path left unexplored. Have you ever wondered about the things we just never see? Not because they're hidden, but because we simply don't look in that direction. Sometimes, truth becomes unknowable, not because someone is trying to hide it, but because we leave the path to it completely unexplored. It's like a quiet room in a big house. No one goes in, so no one knows what's inside. The truth is there, waiting for a curious step. Think about the old days, long ago. For centuries, people believed the earth was flat. It made sense to them. Looking around, the path to understanding around Earth, how ships could sail around it and not fall off, was there. It needed new thinking, brave voyages, and different ways of looking at the stars. No one was hiding the Earth's true shape. It just took explorers, like those who sailed across vast oceans, to step onto an unknown path. Their courage opened up a new truth. Here's the thing. This happens in our own lives too. Imagine you're trying to solve a puzzle. You're sure a certain piece goes in a certain spot. What if you never even pick up that other piece, the one sitting right next to it? Maybe that's the one that fits. Or think about trying to understand why a friend is acting a certain way. You might assume things, right? But if you don't ever ask them, or consider what might be going on in their own life you don't know about, that truth remains a secret. It's not a secret they're keeping from you. It's a secret because you never asked a question, or looked from their perspective. So, sometimes, the truth isn't lost or stolen. It's just waiting on a path we haven't walked down yet. It reminds us there's always more to see, more to learn. Often, important truths are found by daring to look where no one else thought to. It's about the quiet wonder of what lies beyond our usual view. A mind made up already. Have you ever felt a quiet certainty inside you? A belief so strong it feels like solid ground. Maybe you just knew something was true, even when new facts appeared. This feeling, this deep knowing, can become like a quiet wall. It's built not of bricks, but of our own settled thoughts. It makes it hard for new ideas, new facts, and new truths to find their way in. We've decided already, haven't we? So, a different truth, if it doesn't match what we believe, can stay hidden. It's unknowable because we aren't looking for it. Think about people long ago. For hundreds of years, most believed the Earth was flat, a giant disk. The sun and stars, they thought, orbited around us. This felt right. It looked right. It fit their stories. So, when brave thinkers suggested something different, that the Earth was round, spinning around the sun, it was almost impossible for many to accept. Their minds were already made up. That preformed idea acted like a strong filter, making it hard to even consider another possibility. It happens in our own lives too, in quieter ways. Perhaps you've decided a certain food is gross, without truly giving it a fair try. Or maybe you've thought, I'm just not good at math. So, when a teacher explains a new concept, your brain might filter it out. It whispers, nope, can't learn this. I already know I'm bad. The truth that you could understand it, that you could even enjoy it, becomes unknowable because of that strong, pre-made decision. It's a gentle kind of blindness we create. This isn't about being wrong. It's about being open, holding up own thoughts lightly. What if surprising insights, deep understandings, wait just beyond those soft walls we sometimes build? What if letting go of what we think we know is the first quiet step to seeing a new, bigger truth? It takes gentle courage to pause and say, maybe I'll look again. And that's why this way of thinking truly matters. Words without real meaning. Have you ever said a word so many times it started to feel a little empty? Like you know the sound, you know how to spell it, but the actual feeling or picture of what it means just faded away. This can happen with words, and when it does, it makes truth much harder to find. Think about it. If we use a word for everything, does it really mean anything specific anymore? Long ago, people like the ancient Greek philosophers worried about this. They knew that if a word like justice or good could be stretched to cover almost anything, then saying something didn't really tell you much. It's like if the word blue suddenly meant every color in the rainbow, then saying the sky is blue wouldn't mean the sky is a specific shade. It could be red, green, or purple. How could you know the truth about the sky's color if the word blue had no real meaning? Here's a common example. Think about the word natural. You see it on food labels all the time, right? All natural ingredients. But here's the thing. What does natural truly mean in that context? Is sugar natural? Yes, it comes from plants. Are highly processed ingredients natural if they started as plants? The word natural on a label often feels good, but it doesn't give you clear information. It's so broad, it almost loses its meaning. So, if a company says their product is naturally good, how do you know what kind of good they mean? It becomes hard to tell what's true about the product. When words become like this, just sounds without a sharp edge, they create a kind of fog. It's hard to talk about really important ideas, or even simple everyday feelings. If the words we use don't point to something clear and shared among us, it means we might think we're understanding each other perfectly, or understanding the world clearly, but we're actually just floating in a wide sea of sounds that don't land anywhere real. This can make us feel confused, or like we're always missing something important. And that's why it matters so much, because clear, meaningful words are like sturdy stepping stones we use to cross a river. They guide us toward finding what's true, but without them, that path just disappears, leaving us lost in the mist. The truth we run from. Have you ever felt a truth deep inside, but then chosen to turn away? It happens more than you think. This is about truths we don't want to see, not because they're hidden, but because we hide them from ourselves. When a truth feels too uncomfortable or asks too much, it's easier to push it aside. We pretend it's not there. Then, for us, that truth becomes unknowable. It didn't vanish. We just chose not to know it. Think about the ancient philosopher, Plato. He told a story about people in a cave. All they saw were shadows moving on a wall, and they believed these shadows were everything real. Imagine if one person left and saw the bright world outside. It might be too much. They might even want to go back to the dim cave. It felt safer. Running back to those shadows is like running from a truth too big or too hard to face. It's easier to stay in the dark, missing what's truly real. Here's how this plays out in everyday life. Maybe you notice a friend acting differently, not quite themselves. The truth might be they're struggling, but admitting that might mean you have to help, or feel uncomfortable. So, sometimes, we just don't see it. Even if it's right there, we look away. Or, perhaps you've done something you regret. That feeling of guilt is a truth. If you ignore it, push it down, that truth about yourself becomes something you don't face. It becomes unknowable because you chose not to know it. It's a quiet choice we make, to look closely, or to turn our eyes away. And in that turning, a piece of what's real can fade from our view. The truth doesn't vanish from the world. We just stop allowing it to exist for us. Realizing that helps us understand how easily truth can become something we don't know. Not because it's complicated, but because we are. What looks true isn't they've. You ever looked at something and been absolutely sure, only to find out later you were wrong? Like seeing a puddle on the road that vanishes as you get closer. That feeling, when what seemed so real disappears, is a whisper of how tricky truth can be. Sometimes, the world shows us things that seem true at first. They feel right, or they've been repeated so many times we just accept them. But the real, quiet truth can sometimes hide. Think about this. For thousands of years, people looked up and saw the sun travel across the sky every day. It truly looked like the sun moved around Earth. So, everyone believed the Earth was the center of everything. It made perfect sense, right? It was what their eyes told them. But eventually, people questioned this. They used new tools, made careful observations, and figured out that the Earth actually spins and moves around the sun. What looked and felt true wasn't. It was a powerful lesson. Here's another example, closer to your life. Imagine you're scrolling online and you see a picture or a video. It looks completely real. It tells a story and can make you feel strong emotions. But then, maybe a friend tells you it was faked, or you see another article explaining it's an old photo used in a new way. Suddenly, what looked real and true just isn't. Your feeling about it changes, doesn't it? It reminds you that seeing isn't always believing, not truly. And that's the thing about seeking truth. It asks us to slow down, to look past the first glance and easy answers. It asks us to wonder if what we think we know is really what is. Sometimes, to find truth, we must be willing to admit what seems solid might be a shadow. It's not about being suspicious, but about holding gentle curiosity, ready for the world to surprise us with deeper understanding. The mystery that stays. Have you ever wondered about something from long ago that nobody knows the full story of? A forgotten reason, a quiet moment in history. Some truths don't disappear because they're hidden. They simply vanish, like whispers, carried away by time. This kind of unknowing is different. It's not about secrets, but about facts that never left a clear trace. Imagine the very first stories told by people thousands of years ago. What were the exact words? What did the air smell like that night? We can guess, but the true, lived experience is gone forever. It's like trying to hold mist. Even ancient thinkers knew this. They understood that much would always remain a puzzle. They saw it not as a problem, but as part of the world's quiet wonder. Think about the universe. We see light from distant stars, but what was before the very beginning? Or what's beyond our wildest imagination? Some questions just might not have answers. Here's a small example. Your town might have a very old building. Maybe there's a strange window or a door that seems to lead nowhere. You might wonder, why is that there? Was it a mistake? Or did it have a special purpose for the builder that no one remembers? The true story of that window remains a quiet question mark, forever unknown, and that's okay. This mystery reminds us that our knowledge has limits, but that's not a bad thing. It leaves space for imagination and quiet awe. It teaches us to accept that not everything can be fully known. That keeps a little wonder alive, doesn't it? Blurring lines of right and wrong. Have you ever wondered if something right to one person feels wrong to another? It's a strange thought, isn't it? We often think truth is clear, like a bright light. But when we talk about right and wrong, that light can get fuzzy. The edges blur. This is where truth becomes a puzzle. Here's the thing. Our actions often have many layers. We might do something with good intentions, but what if that same action accidentally causes harm elsewhere? Or what if someone does something that seems wrong at first, but they had a good reason we didn't know? When intentions clash with outcomes, the clear lines of truth start to waver. Everything gets distorted, like wavy glass. For ages, people have wrestled with these ideas. Think about old stories. A hero in one culture might be a villain in another. Deep thinkers, called philosophers, often ask, is an action truly good if it leads to a bad result? Or is it only about the intention? How we answer shapes our world, and how we understand what's real. Imagine your friend struggles with a test, asking for a small hint. You know cheating is wrong, but you also see their pain and want to help. You give a tiny hint. Was that right because you helped your friend? Or wrong because it was cheating? The truth gets tangled in different viewpoints, blurring simple answers. So, here's what I found. The truth about right and wrong isn't always a simple yes or no. It lives in a messy middle, in gray areas where intentions, actions, and consequences weave together. It teaches us to look closer, to understand different sides. It reminds us that knowing the full truth, especially on moral questions, often means accepting it's not perfectly clear. The past only we saw. Have you ever wondered if someone else could truly know what you felt or saw in a moment that was only yours? This idea is about how some truths become unknowable because they live only within our own minds. Imagine a memory, so clear to you, so vivid, but it happened when no one else was around. It's a truth you hold, but it can't be shared perfectly. Not really. It's like a secret garden in your mind, and only you have the key. Think about how history is written. Often, it's based on documents, old letters, or things people said. But what about the quiet thoughts of a person living hundreds of years ago? What about the specific feeling they had when they saw something amazing or something sad? Philosophers have thought about this for ages. They ask, how much of reality is just what we personally experience? The ancient Greeks, like Plato, wondered if what we see and feel is the real truth, or just our own unique version of it. Here's the thing. Everyone's inner world is different. Let's say you're walking home after school, and you see something incredibly beautiful, like a rainbow curving perfectly over your street. Or maybe you notice a tiny, specific detail, like how the light hits a certain leaf just right, making it glow. You feel a sudden rush of peace, a quiet joy. You try to tell your friend about it later. You can describe the rainbow, the leaf, the light, but can you truly share that exact, unique feeling, that exact moment of connection you had? Can they see it through your eyes? No, not really. That specific experience, that inner knowing, is yours alone. So, some truths are like whispers in the wind, heard only by one heart. They are real, powerful, and shape who we are, but they remain yours, a precious, personal history. And that's okay. It reminds us how truly special and private our own inner worlds are, and how much of who we are is built on moments only we witnessed. It's a beautiful, quiet mystery. When the picture is fuzzy, have you ever tried to remember something from a long time ago, but the memory feels like a blurry photo? Or maybe you've looked at a picture so old and faded, you can barely make out what's happening. This is what it means when the picture of truth is fuzzy. It's not that the truth is hidden on purpose, but that the clear details are missing, or they're distorted. Imagine people long ago. They looked up at the stars, or watched the changing seasons. They didn't have telescopes or weather satellites. The information they had was limited, like looking through a fog. So, their understanding of the world, their truth about why things happened was often a guess, a story, or a myth. It wasn't because they were wrong. It was because their picture of reality was just fuzzy. They did the best they could with the information they had. Here's the thing. Sometimes we face a similar situation. Think about an old family story, passed down through generations. Your grandma tells you about her grandma. Parts of the story are clear, like a sunny day, but other parts are vague, or maybe different family members remember them in slightly different ways. Did the old house really have a secret room? Was the dog actually named Captain? The core truth might be there, but the edges are soft. The details are lost to time, like an old recording with static. You can't truly know every single thing that happened because the original recording just wasn't perfectly clear to begin with. So, when the picture is fuzzy, it means the truth isn't unknowable because it's a secret. It's unknowable because the information itself is incomplete or unclear. This reminds us to be patient with what we don't know and to understand that sometimes a clear, sharp picture of every truth just isn't possible, and that's okay. The story that evolves. Have you ever noticed how a story can change a little each time it's told? Maybe a detail shifts, or a different character seems more important. It's not that someone is trying to lie, it's just that the story itself can grow and breathe over time. Here's the thing, truth can be like that too. What we understand as truth isn't always a fixed, unchanging stone. Sometimes, it's more like a living, evolving story. Think about how people used to see our world. For a long, long time, people truly believed the earth was flat. They had good reasons for it, based on what they could see and feel around them. It was their truth. But as explorers sailed further, and thinkers began to look at the stars in new ways, that story changed. Suddenly, the earth became round. That wasn't a lie before, but a different, incomplete understanding. So here's what happened. The story of our world evolved. This isn't just about old history. It happens in our daily lives, too. Imagine you hear about an argument between two friends. At first, you might get one side of the story. You understand it a certain way, but then you hear the other friend's perspective, and suddenly, the whole picture shifts. New feelings come into play, and you see things you missed before. The truth of what happened didn't completely change, but your understanding of it deepened, much like a blurry photo coming into focus. So, when we think about truth, it's sometimes about being open. It's okay if what we believe today might grow and change tomorrow. It means we are learning, and that we are willing to see the world with fresh eyes, letting its stories unfold. Things too big to grasp. Have you ever tried to really imagine the whole universe? Not just our solar system, but all the galaxies, all the stars, everything. It's hard, right? Your mind kind of bumps up against a wall. What if some truths are like that? What if they become unknowable? Not because someone is hiding them, but because they are just too incredibly vast for us to fully take in. Here's the thing, our brains are amazing, but they have limits. We can only hold so much information, so much detail, so many connections at once. When a truth is too big, too complex, too stretched out across time or space, we can only ever grasp tiny pieces of it. It's like trying to scoop up the entire ocean with a single teacup. You get a bit of water, but you'll never hold the whole ocean. Thinkers long ago, like the ancient Greek philosophers, sort of understood this. They looked at the night sky, or the vastness of the sea, and knew there was so much they couldn't possibly know. They realized that our human minds, as clever as they are small compared to the immense world around us. They believed some things were just beyond our complete understanding, not because we weren't smart enough, but because of the sheer scale of the information. Here's an example. Imagine trying to remember every single conversation you've ever had since you were born. Every word, every laugh, every silence. It's impossible. Your brain can't store or bring back all that detail. The complete truth of your life, every tiny moment, is too big for even you to fully grasp. You can remember parts, feelings, important events, but never all of it. So sometimes truth becomes unknowable because its size overwhelms us. We get glimpses, small flashes of it, and that's okay. It's not a failure on our part. It just means there's always more wonder out there, more to ponder, even if we can't hold it all at once. It reminds us how much mystery still exists, and that can be a beautiful thing, where facts just disappear. Have you ever thought about what happens to truth when there are no words left to hold it? No records, no memories, just silence. This isn't about someone telling a lie. Here's the thing. Sometimes, facts don't just get twisted or forgotten. They simply cease to exist in any way we can find them. They vanish, leaving behind an empty space where understanding used to be, or could have been. Think about the ancient world. So much was built, so many stories told, so much knowledge gathered. But then, centuries passed. Fires burned great libraries, like the one in Alexandria, where countless scrolls turned to ash. Wars tore through cities, scattering treasured writings. Imagine vast libraries of ancient thought just crumbling, entire ways of seeing the world, gone forever. We don't even know what we're missing. These facts weren't wrong. Their records were simply lost to time and decay, unrecorded or destroyed. It's like trying to remember a dream you had last night. You know it happened. You might grasp at a feeling, a color, a whisper of a scene. But the exact details, the dialogue, often, they're just gone. They disappeared the moment you woke up, unwritten and uncaptured. Or think about all the daily conversations, the small acts of kindness, your quiet thoughts. Most of them are never written down, never photographed. They exist in the moment, then drift away, like smoke. We don't have records of every person who lived, every word they spoke, and that's why it matters. There's a quiet sorrow in these gaps. It's a reminder that truth isn't always a solid, unchanging stone we can always pick up. Sometimes, it's a whisper on the wind, and when the wind dies down, the whisper is just gone. We are left with the quiet mystery of what we will never know. It's a part of what makes history, and even our own lives, a puzzle with many missing pieces. The truth that hurts too much. Have you ever known something deep down, but you just didn't want to believe it? Like a quiet whisper that tells you something sad is true, but you try to pretend you didn't hear it. That's what we mean when truth hurts too much to become truly known. It's not about not having information. It's about our hearts and minds simply struggling to accept a painful reality. Here's the thing. Sometimes, the truth isn't hidden from us. It's right there, but we choose not to look at it fully because of the pain it carries. It's like building a soft, protective wall around your feelings. For centuries, people have wrestled with this. Ancient storytellers often wove tales of hope or magic when the reality of life was harsh and unpredictable. It wasn't about deceiving others, but about finding a way to cope, to survive a truth that felt too heavy to carry. A comforting story, even if not fully real, could offer a fragile shield against the world's sharp edges. Think about a time when you knew a big project was due soon, and you hadn't really started it. You had all the information, the due date, the requirements, but instead of facing the truth of the looming deadline and the work ahead, you might have just watched TV or played a game. It hurt too much to think about the stress, the effort, or maybe the idea of failing. So, you just didn't think about it. The truth was known, but it was pushed into a shadow, ignored because it brought an uncomfortable feeling. So, the truth isn't always something hidden in a dusty book or a secret place. Sometimes, it's right there, in the air we breathe. But we might turn away from it, not because we can't understand it, but because letting it truly in would mean feeling something really hard. It might mean changing our minds about something important, or accepting a loss. And that's a very human thing to do, to try and shield ourselves from what feels like a wound. But knowing this can help us understand why, sometimes, we live in a little bit of unknowing, even when the truth is waiting for us. Believing a dream. Have you ever woken up from a dream? Maybe one where you were flying or talking to someone who isn't around anymore, and for a few seconds, it felt completely, truly real. That strange, soft blur between sleep and waking, where you're not quite sure what just happened was only in your head. That's a powerful moment, isn't it? Our minds are amazing storytellers. They can spin tales so vivid, so rich with feeling, that they feel just as solid as the chair you're sitting on. But here's the thing, if we mistake those internal stories, those deep sleep journeys, for actual facts of the world, then the true reality can slip away from us. We start to believe something that isn't true, and the path to what is true gets harder to see. For a long, long time, people believed dreams were messages from gods or glimpses into the future. Ancient Egyptians, for example, even had dream interpreters who would explain what dreams meant. And sometimes, rulers would make big decisions based on these dream messages. They weren't just thinking of dreams as simple brain activity. They saw them as part of the real world, carrying real weight. So, If a dream said something was true, it became true for them, even if it wasn't externally happening. Imagine you dream you forgot to study for a big test tomorrow. You wake up in a sweat, heart pounding, convinced you're totally unprepared. You might even feel that rush of panic, that pit in your stomach. But then, as your eyes adjust to the light, you remember, the test isn't until next week. Or maybe, you've already taken it. The feeling of worry was intensely real, but the situation itself, the truth of it, was totally different. Your mind created a convincing reality that wasn't actually there, and that's why it matters. Our inner worlds are vast and full of wonders, but they are separate from the world outside. Learning to tell the difference, to gently question what our minds present as truth, helps us stay connected to what's genuinely real. It reminds us to be curious about where our beliefs come from, especially the ones that feel so deeply true. The unseen hand of influence. Have you ever felt like a thought just popped into your head, but it wasn't quite yours, like a gentle nudge, pushing you one way or another, without you even realizing it? This is the unseen hand of influence. It's a quiet force, working behind the scenes. It shapes what we believe, without us seeing it directly. It's like currents in a deep ocean, silently guiding ships. For a very long time, thinkers have wondered about these hidden forces. Wise people spoke of how groups or cultural stories quietly shape our minds. It's not about someone telling you a lie. It's about how our world silently teaches us what to value or ignore. These influences are woven deeply into daily life, almost invisible. Think about social media. The app decides what to show you next. It learns what you click on and what you like. Then, it shows you more of that. If you watch videos about one topic, it keeps feeding you similar ones. Over time, this quiet stream of information can gently lead your beliefs in a certain direction. It's not a command, but a constant, subtle suggestion. You start to see only one side of a story. You might believe you've found the full truth, but you're only seeing the part chosen for you by this unseen hand. So, where does that leave us with truth? It means we must look closely, not just at what we see, but at how we come to see it. It means pausing to ask, is this really my thought, or has it been shaped by unseen forces? The truth can be hidden not just by open lies, but by quiet whispers of influence. These whispers guide our very perception, making what feels like fact more like a mirage. It's a reminder to question the source, and to wonder about the currents that move us all. A memory made up. Have you ever stopped to wonder if your memories are completely true? Like every detail, exactly as it happened? Here's the thing about memory. It's not a perfect video camera. Our minds don't just record events. Instead, when we remember, our brains actually build the memory again. And sometimes, in that rebuilding, pieces get added, changed, or even totally imagined. We then believe these made-up parts are real. What if the truth of what happened isn't fixed, but changes inside us over time? Even ancient thinkers, thousands of years ago, saw memory as something fluid, not solid. Today, scientists studying the brain agree. They show how feelings, new information, or just time can twist a memory. It's not that we're trying to lie. It's just how our minds work. For example, imagine you and a friend remember a funny thing from last summer. You both agree it was hilarious. But when you talk details, your friend says it was raining, and you remember the sun. Who's truly right? Maybe neither. Your brains might have filled in details based on feelings, or what seemed to fit the story. Sometimes, hearing another's version enough makes it your own truth. This idea that our own past can shift feels a little strange. If memories aren't fixed, then the truth of our experiences can become unknowable, even to us. It reminds us that the truth we hold about our lives might be different from what truly happened. Our cherished recollections are delicate, living things, reshaping themselves without us knowing. And that's okay. It's part of being human. When we don't want to know, have you ever felt a quiet tug inside, telling you something might be true, but you just didn't want to hear it? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? Like holding a letter you know has bad news, and just not opening it. This is one way truth can become unknowable. When we choose to look away. People have noticed this part of being human for thousands of years. Ancient thinkers wondered why we sometimes prefer comforting ideas over hard reality. Often, it's about protecting our feelings. It feels easier to stay in a familiar place, even if that place isn't quite true. Here's an example. Imagine you love a sports team. Maybe they're not doing well. Someone talks about their problems, and you just tune out. You only remember their wins. It's not that the hard facts aren't real. It's that your mind wants to focus on what feels good, or what you already believe. It's like building a wall around what you know, not letting new things in. And that's how truth can become hidden, not by others, but by us. When we avoid tough facts, or only listen to ideas that match our own, a part of truth simply stops existing for us. It's not gone, but for us, it might as well be. Sometimes, the hardest truth is the one we don't want to see, the one we choose to ignore. Because in those moments, the path to knowing gets quietly closed off by our own hands. The language barrier. Have you ever tried to explain something really important, like how you feel, and the words just didn't quite get it right? It's like trying to pour water from a wide cup into a narrow bottle. Some of it spills. That's a bit like how truth can become unknowable because of language. We use words to share our thoughts, our feelings, and what we believe is true. But here's the thing. Words are just symbols. They're like little flags we wave to point at ideas. Your flag might look a bit different from mine, even if we're pointing at the same idea. Think about an old story, passed down through generations. Each time it's told, maybe a word changes, a small detail shifts, and the original meaning starts to soften, like an old photograph fading in the sun. Ancient thinkers, long ago, noticed this too. They saw how different groups of people, even in the same land, used words slightly differently. This meant what seemed like a solid truth in one village might feel a little wobbly in another. It wasn't about being right or wrong, but about how the very tools we use to understand our words can shape, or even hide the truth. Imagine trying to describe the color blue to someone who has never seen it, only heard stories about it. You might say it's like the sky, or the ocean, but their mind might imagine a dark, stormy ocean, while yours sees a bright, clear summer sky. Both are blue, but the feeling, the specific truth of that color, is different for each person. The word itself doesn't carry the exact image from your mind to theirs, and that's why it matters. Language is a beautiful, powerful gift that connects us, but it also creates a kind of gentle fog between minds. It reminds us that truth isn't always a perfectly clear, solid stone. Sometimes it's a shimmering, elusive thing, partly hidden in the way we choose our words, and partly in the way others hear them. It teaches us patience, and maybe a quiet respect for the mystery that lives between what we say and what is truly understood. The sound of nothing. Have you ever really tried to hear nothing at all? Not just quiet, but truly, completely nothing. It's much harder than you think. Even in your own quiet bedroom late at night, you might hear your own heartbeat, or the hum of the fridge, or the old house settling. But what if there was absolutely no sound? What if the world went silent? Sound is made when things vibrate. These vibrations create waves that travel through stuff like air, or water, or even solid walls, all the way to your ears. Your brain then takes those vibrations and turns them into the sounds you hear. So, here's the thing. If there's nothing to vibrate, there's no sound. Think about outer space, which is mostly a vacuum. That means there's almost no air or anything else for sound waves to travel through. That's why you wouldn't hear giant explosions or even a loud shout if you were floating in space. It's a silent place, even when amazing things are happening. Long ago, thinkers like Aristotle believed sound couldn't exist without a listener. It was a big debate. Today, we know the vibrations happen even if no one hears them. But without something to carry them or an ear to receive them, it's not really sound to us. This can help you understand how truth can become unknowable. If a truth is something that needs to be heard, like someone telling you a secret, or a warning bell ringing in the distance, or the distinct creak of a floorboard telling you someone is nearby, what happens when there's no sound at all? Imagine a situation where a vital message was spoken, but no one could hear it. Maybe a friend whispered a crucial detail, but you were too far away. Or perhaps a faint noise that held a clue was completely swallowed by the silence around it. When there's an absence of sound, a message, a hint, a whole important piece of the puzzle simply goes missing. That information, that truth, is out there, perhaps, but it has no way to reach you. It remains in the deep, quiet, unknowable. It's like trying to listen to a story told in perfect, absolute silence. You might know there could be a story there, a truth waiting to be shared, but without the sound, it stays locked away, lost to the deep, silent void. Lies that feel so good. Have you ever noticed how sometimes The truth feels like a sharp, cold wind, and a comforting story feels like a warm blanket. Why do we sometimes reach for that blanket, even if we know deep down it's not entirely real? It's a strange thing about being human. Our minds are built to protect us, not just from physical danger, but also from things that hurt our feelings or make us feel uncertain. For a long time, people have told stories that made the world make more sense, even if those stories weren't completely true. Think about the old myths, like why the sun rises or why it rains. The true reasons weren't known yet. So, people made up tales about gods or spirits. These tales felt good because they brought order and comfort to a confusing world. They were easier to believe than simply saying, "We don't know." And that's okay, because those stories helped people cope. Here's the thing, we still do this. Imagine you're hoping to get a good grade on a test you didn't study much for. You might tell yourself, "It'll be fine. I'm good at this subject anyway." That thought, that little lie, feels good, right? It pushes away the uncomfortable truth that maybe you should have studied more. Or maybe a friend says something mean, and instead of accepting that they were unkind, you might tell yourself, "They didn't mean it. They were just tired." That makes it easier to keep being their friend, easier than a difficult conversation. This isn't about being bad or weak. It's just how our minds work sometimes. The truth can be messy, and sometimes a lie offers a smooth path, a temporary escape from discomfort. But here's what happens. Choosing the comfy lie too often means we miss out on what the truth can teach us. The path might be bumpy, but it leads to a deeper, more real understanding of the world and ourselves. It takes courage to face the cold wind, but it helps us grow stronger. Being told what to think. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to truly discover something, to piece together ideas in your own mind? And then, what if that chance was taken away? What if, instead of figuring things out for yourself, you were simply told what to believe, what was true? Here's the thing, when someone tells you exactly what to think, it can make truth feel different. Not like a discovery, but more like a set of rules. It's like being handed a puzzle that's already finished, or told the ending of a movie. Before you even start watching, you get the information, but you miss the journey, the surprise, the wonder of finding it out yourself. For centuries, there have been times and places where people weren't free to explore all kinds of ideas. Powerful leaders, or sometimes even whole societies, would decide what was right to believe. They would control books, news, or even what people could say out loud. And that's why it matters. When only one story is allowed, the other stories, the different angles, fade into shadows. You only see the world through one small window, and all the vast, interesting views outside that window remain unseen. Think about it like this. Imagine you're trying to understand a new type of animal. If you only read a book written by someone who has only ever seen a drawing of that animal, you might miss what it feels like to touch its fur, or hear its unique sound, or see how it moves in its natural home. The truth you get is limited, pre-scripted, and that can happen with ideas too, especially with social media algorithms that show you only what you already agree with, or what someone wants you to see. So, when we are only told what to think, the full, vibrant truth can become unknowable. It's a quiet kind of loss, because we miss the chance to truly understand, to question, and to let our own curiosity light the way. The weight of old habits. Have you ever wondered why we keep doing things, even when we know there might be a better way? It's like our minds are on autopilot, following a path worn smooth by countless journeys. This is the quiet power of old habits, and they can make it harder to see new truths. Think about it. From the moment we wake up, we often follow a script. We might brush our teeth the same way, eat the same breakfast, or walk the same route to school. These actions become automatic. Our brains create shortcuts. They say, "We've done this before. It works. Let's do it again." This saves us from having to think about every little thing. But here's the thing. Sometimes, these deep grooves in our minds can keep us from exploring new paths. Ancient thinkers noticed this. They knew that repeating something, whether an action or a way of thinking, makes it stick. It becomes part of us, like a second skin. Imagine trying to learn a new skill, like playing the guitar, but your fingers always fall back to the chords you already know, even if they're wrong for the new song. Or consider this, maybe you always check the news from the same single source, because it's what you've always done. It feels comfortable. But what if that source only tells one side of a story? What if there's a whole other perspective out there, waiting to be seen, but your habit keeps you from looking? That comfort, that familiar feeling, can quietly close us off to other ideas, other facts, other ways of seeing the world. Truth, in its fullness, sometimes waits beyond the well-worn path. It asks us to step into the tall grass, to look where we haven't looked before, and that can feel uncomfortable. It takes courage to question our own routines, our own ways of thinking, but it's only then, when we gently push against the weight of what's familiar, that we can truly open our eyes to the whole, wide world of what is real. The hidden agenda. Have you ever felt like someone was saying one thing, but meaning something else? Like their words were a costume, hiding their real thoughts or goals? This feeling touches on the hidden agenda, a quiet, unseen purpose behind what's shown or said. It's when someone has a secret aim they don't share, an unspoken reason for their actions. Imagine a shadow stretching behind a person, and that shadow is their true intention. You see their front, their smile, their offered hand, but the shadow is where their real purpose lies. It's not always about being sneaky or bad. Sometimes, it's about wanting something specific to happen, without having to explain every step, or without revealing vulnerability. Throughout history, people have carried these hidden agendas. Think of ancient kings who might offer a peace treaty, but secretly plan to gather strength for a future war, or a merchant who praises their goods endlessly, not just because they're good, but because they want to make a big sale. It's a part of human interaction, a layer we often miss. The philosopher might say it's about the truth of motive being veiled. Here's the thing, you see this in everyday life. Maybe a friend offers to tutor you in math, but what they really want is for you to owe them a favor later. Perhaps help them study for a history test they're struggling with. Or a commercial shows people laughing joyfully, using a certain soda. Their public message is happiness, but their hidden agenda is simply to get you to buy their product. The joy is just a tool. So, when we come across hidden agendas, it reminds us that truth isn't always laid bare for us. It can hide in plain sight, tucked behind a polite smile or a helpful gesture. It encourages us to look past the obvious, to feel for the quiet currents beneath the surface. It's not about being suspicious, but about learning to gently ask, what else might be here? It's a way of understanding that the full story sometimes needs a little more listening, a little more thought, to truly unfold. Just a different point of view. Have you ever looked at something and felt totally sure about what it was, only for someone else to see it differently? It's like standing on one side of a huge statue and seeing a person, but your friend on the other side swears it's a horse. Who's right? Here's the thing. What we believe to be true often depends on where we're standing. Our own spot, our experiences, they shape the lens through which we see the world. Think about people from long ago. Ancient storytellers, for example, often had different versions of the same myths or historical events. A hero in one town might be seen as a villain in another, depending on whose ancestors they helped or harmed. And that's why it matters. What seemed like a clear truth to one group could be fuzzy or even wrong to another. It wasn't about anyone lying. It was simply a different point of view, colored by their lives and culture. Let's say you and a classmate are working on a project about a historical event. You might focus on the big political reasons, while your friend talks about the personal stories of the people involved. Both are true parts of the event, but you're highlighting different aspects. So here's what happened. The full picture, the truth, becomes a mix of both your perspectives. It's not just one right answer, but layers of understanding from various angles. This doesn't mean truth doesn't exist. It just means truth can be like a sparkling jewel, reflecting different colors depending on how the light hits it. We might only see one color, one facet, from where we stand. And maybe, to truly understand, we need to walk around the jewel, inviting others to share the colors they see too. It makes the world richer, even if it makes the truth feel a little less fixed, a little more mysterious. It teaches us to be curious about what others see. Knowing their view adds to the whole. When facts don't add up, have you ever tried to put together a puzzle, only to find some pieces are missing, or worse, some pieces just don't fit, no matter how hard you try? It's like that sometimes with truth. We gather facts, bits of information, but when we lay them all out, they don't quite connect. They don't add up. This is one of the quiet ways truth can slip away, becoming harder to know. Think about it. We rely on what we see, what we hear, what we're told. But what if different people saw the same event in different ways? What if an old report has gaps, or new discoveries contradict what was once believed? For a long time, people believed the Earth was the center of the universe. This seemed to make sense from what they could see. But then, astronomers like Copernicus and Galileo collected new facts. Their observations of planets didn't fit the old idea. The old understanding just didn't add up with this new evidence. For a while, truth felt wobbly, confusing everyone. Imagine you're trying to figure out what happened at school during lunch. Your friend Maya tells you one thing. Your friend Leo tells you something a little different. And then you remember seeing something that contradicts both of them. Each piece of information feels true on its own. But when you put Maya's story next to Leo's, and then add your own memory, it's a jumble. The facts don't quite add up to one clear picture. You can't truly know exactly what happened, because the pieces don't form a complete, consistent whole. This doesn't mean truth vanishes. It means sometimes the path to finding it is tangled. When facts don't add up, we're asked to pause, to be patient. It pushes us to look deeper, to accept that a clear, simple answer isn't always there. It teaches us to be humble about what we think we know, and open to the idea that more to the story often exists. The road not taken. Have you ever looked at a path, split into two, and known you could only choose one? What happens to the road you don't take? For us, its truth becomes a mystery. This idea, the road not taken, explains how choosing one way in life means the truth of all the other possible ways becomes something we can never truly know, don't think about. Robert Frost's famous poem, he walked through a yellow wood, faced with two roads, and picked one. He felt that choice made all the difference. But the deeper meaning isn't just about physical paths. It's about every choice we make. When we pick an elective for school, or decide which club to join, or even which friend to sit with at lunch, we're choosing one road over others. The moment we step onto one road, the truth of what might have happened on the other path becomes unknowable. We can imagine, we can guess, but we can't know. It's like a science experiment. You can give one plant a lot of light and another very little, but you can't give the same plant both at the exact same time. The truth of the unchosen light amount for that specific plant vanishes. It becomes a what if. This isn't about feeling bad or regretting our decisions. Instead, it's a quiet thought about how life is full of moments where we pick a direction. When we do, we accept that the full story of the paths we leave behind will always be a mystery. It gently reminds us to be present on the road we are on, because it's the only one whose truth we can ever truly experience. It whispers about the limits of what we can know, and the quiet beauty of the journey we actually take. The things we assume. Have you ever just known something, deep down, without ever really thinking why? That feeling, that certainty, often comes from assumptions. An assumption is a quiet belief we hold, an idea we take for granted as true, even without checking. It's what we build our understanding on, sometimes without noticing the foundation. And here's the thing, these quiet beliefs can make the real truth hard to see. They can hide it. For a long, long time, people assumed the Earth was flat. This wasn't because they were foolish. It was just what seemed obvious from looking around. Sailors worried they'd fall off the edge. If you believed the Earth was flat, then the idea of sailing around it, or that stars were giant suns, made no sense. That one assumption, simple as it sounds, kept so many truths about our planet, our universe, hidden and unknowable for centuries. It stopped them from even looking for different answers. Think about when you hear a rumor about someone at school. Maybe someone says a new student is unfriendly. You haven't talked to them, but you hear it, and you start to assume it's true. So, you might avoid them, or act differently. Because of that assumption, you never actually learn what that person is really like. You never get to know their true self. The truth about them becomes unknowable to you. Not because it's complicated, but because of a simple idea you took for granted. So, what does this tell us? It tells us that sometimes, the hardest truths aren't hidden in secret places. They are often just behind the simple ideas we've accepted without question. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other knowns are we holding on to that might be stopping us from seeing something truly new, truly real? It's a quiet challenge to gently question what we think we already know. How sadness changes things. Have you ever noticed how the world looks different when you're feeling truly sad? It's like a quiet filter settles over everything. Colors might seem duller, sounds softer, and even the air feels heavier. And here's the thing, this isn't just a feeling. Sadness can actually change how we see, or how we think we see. the truth around us. Imagine your mind is a clear window looking out. When you're sad, it's as if that window gets a misty fog on it. Things outside are still there, but they look blurred, less sharp. People have thought about this for a long time. Ancient thinkers understood that our strong feelings could cloud our judgment. They believed a calm mind was better for finding true wisdom. It's not that sadness makes facts disappear. It's more that it shifts our perspective. It can make some parts of reality seem bigger, while others shrink from our focus. Think about a time you lost something important, like a favorite toy. When you were sad about it, did you notice how other good things that day just didn't seem to matter as much? Your friend might have told a funny joke, or you got a good grade, but your sadness made those happy moments feel small. Your mind focused so much on the loss that it struggled to see the full picture of your day. Joy was there, the truth of those good things, but your sadness dimmed it. So, sadness doesn't erase facts, it tints them. It can make us focus only on what hurts, or what's missing, making it harder to see the whole truth. It teaches us that our feelings are powerful. They don't just happen inside us. They touch the way we understand everything else, and that's why it matters. Acknowledging our feelings can help us clean that window, so we can try to see things more clearly, even when life feels heavy. The truth that hides in plain sight. Have you ever looked right at something, truly looked, but not really seen it? It's a strange thought, like a secret not hidden at all, but out there for everyone. But because it's so obvious, so much a part of everyday life, we stop noticing it. This is how truth can become unknowable. It hides, not in darkness, but in plain, bright sight. Think about the air we breathe. It's everywhere, around us, constantly. We need it to live. Every single second, it's a basic truth of our existence. But when was the last time you consciously thought about the air, felt it fill your lungs? It's always there, so it fades into the background. It becomes invisible because it's always present. This idea isn't new. For ages, thinkers have explored how we overlook basic things. They noticed what is common, what is always available, often becomes the least considered. It's not about being clever. It's about remembering to look at what's already here. Consider your own heartbeat right now. It's probably beating steadily, a quiet drum inside your chest. It started before you were born and will continue until your last moment. It's a constant, vital truth about you. But unless you're running or feeling nervous, you rarely pay attention. It just is. And because it just is, we often forget its simple, profound reality. So here's the thing. Sometimes the most important truths aren't found by searching far away or digging into hidden secrets. Instead, they might be waiting, quietly, right in front of our eyes. Maybe the real challenge is not finding truth, but simply learning to truly see what's already there, whispering its quiet wisdom in our ordinary moments. This can help you see the world in new ways. A promise broken. Have you ever felt the quiet sting when someone doesn't do what they said they would? It's more than just a letdown. When a promise breaks, something shifts in the way we see the world, and the truth gets a little harder to find. A promise is like a bridge. It connects what someone says today to what they will do tomorrow. It's built on trust, a belief that words have meaning and that the future will unfold as spoken. Think about old times. People once swore oaths, making their words sacred, almost like a piece of themselves. Breaking such an oath was seen as a grave thing, not just because it caused a problem, but because it shattered the very idea of truth in what was said. If a king promised protection and then didn't give it, his kingdom wouldn't just be weak. His words would become empty. Here's the thing. When that bridge of promise crumbles, it's not just the action that fails. The truth about a person's reliability, or even their intentions, becomes blurry. Imagine your friend promises to keep a big secret, swearing they won't tell anyone. Then, you hear it from someone else. You're hurt, of course. But beyond that feeling, you also start to wonder, was their promise ever true? Did they mean it when they said it? The truth about their trustworthiness, about what you can rely on them for in the future, becomes unknowable. It's like looking through a window. Before, the glass was clear, and you could see the world outside, knowing what to expect from it. But a broken promise can smudge that glass. It makes the world outside, especially the part connected to that person or situation, seem hazy and uncertain, and that's why it matters. When promises shatter, they don't just break our hearts a little, they also break our clear sight of the truth, making trust a much harder path to walk in the future. The story that's too perfect. Have you ever heard a story that felt just a little too neat, too clean? Like every single piece fit perfectly, without a single wrinkle or rough edge. It's natural to want things to make sense, to have a clear beginning, middle, and end, where everything is explained. But sometimes, a story being too perfect can actually hide the truth. Think about it. We often crave simple answers, easy explanations for complicated things. For a long time, people told myths and legends that perfectly explained the sunrise, the thunder, or why certain things happened. These stories were beautiful and comforting. But the real world, the actual truth, is often much messier. It has loose ends, confusing parts, and bits that just don't quite fit. And that's okay. Here's the thing, when a story paints someone as entirely good, or entirely bad, without any shades of grey, it might be too perfect. Imagine a history book that says one leader was completely flawless, always right, never made a mistake, or an old tale where the villain is just pure evil, with no reason or struggle behind their actions. Life isn't usually like that. People are complicated, events are complicated. So when a story feels polished to a shine, with no room for doubt or questioning, it can actually make the true picture harder to see. It's like looking into a mirror that's been wiped so clean, it reflects only what someone wants you to see, not the full, textured reality. The truth often whispers in the quiet parts, in the imperfections, in the pieces that don't quite line up. It asks us to look beyond the smooth surface, to find the real, sometimes tangled, beauty beneath. When feelings take over, have you ever felt so strongly about something, maybe anger, deep love, or huge excitement, that it changed what you saw, or what you believed was true? Our feelings are like a powerful current inside us. When they swell up, they can truly tint the world. It's like putting on colored glasses. Everything looks different, even if the facts haven't changed. Our emotions can make things seem brighter, darker, or twist them into shapes they aren't. For a long time, thinkers wondered about this. Ancient Greek philosophers talked about how strong feelings could mess with clear thinking. Someone overwhelmed by anger might say unfair things. Someone deeply in love might not see a loved one's mistakes. Here's the thing, they understood feelings are part of being human, but they also saw how easily these feelings could lead us away from what's truly real. It's not that feelings are bad, it's how they can sometimes cloud the mirror of truth. Think about a time you really wanted something, like a spot on a team. If you didn't get it, you probably felt super disappointed or angry. In that moment, it was hard to see anything good. You might have blamed the coach, even if the decision was fair. Your feelings made it hard to accept the simple truth. Or maybe you've argued with a friend. When both are upset, your own anger makes it hard to truly hear them. Emotions can make their words sound different, even if they didn't mean them that way. So, how do we find truth when our hearts are so full? It means slowing down. It means taking a breath and looking past that first rush of feeling. It's about understanding our emotions are real and powerful, but they aren't always the most reliable guides to what is simply true. Recognizing this helps us see more clearly, not just the world, but ourselves too. And that's why it matters for seeing the truth. The world beyond our reach. Have you ever looked out at a dark, clear night sky? You see so many stars, so many lights. But what about the spaces between them? What about the places our telescopes can't reach, or moments in time we can't ever visit? Here's the thing, some truths, some parts of our world, are simply beyond our grasp. They exist, they are real, but we can't touch them, or see them, or even truly imagine them. For thousands of years, people have stared into the night, or into their own minds, wondering about things they couldn't fully know. Ancient thinkers felt this mystery, this quiet understanding that our minds, amazing as they are, have limits. It's not a weakness, it's just how the universe works. Don't think about the very edge of the observable universe. Scientists can see billions of light away, looking back to when the universe was very young. But there's a line, a horizon, past which light hasn't reached us. So, what's beyond that line? We can guess, but we can't actually see it. We can't send a probe there. It would take longer than anyone can imagine. So the truth of what lies beyond that visible edge, or what was before the first moments of time, that truth remains a whisper, a question mark in the cosmic dark. And that's okay. It's not about giving up, it's about finding peace in the vastness. It teaches us, not every puzzle has a solution we can understand. Sometimes, The most beautiful truth is simply that wonder itself is endless. It reminds us how precious and amazing the small part of the world we do know is. It leaves room for awe, for quiet thought, and for the humbling idea that some mysteries are meant to remain just that, mysteries. A whisper from long ago. Do you ever wonder about the stories that existed before books, even before writing? Imagine a time when all of history lived inside people's minds, passed down from one generation to the next, like a precious, delicate song. This is one way truth can become unknowable, through the soft, quiet fading of time itself. Think about the ancient myths, those tales of heroes and gods we sometimes read. How much do we truly know about what really happened, or if those events were ever real in the way we think of things today? The further back we try to look, the more the clear edges of truth start to blur. It's like trying to see something far away in a thick fog. You know something is there, but you can't make out the details. Historians work a lot like detectives. They piece together tiny clues from what remains: an old pottery shard, a faded inscription, a crumbling ruin. But here's the thing, even they will tell you that a huge amount of information is simply gone. It's been whispered away by centuries, by the wind, by changes in language, or by people simply forgetting. It's like when your grandparents tell a story about their childhood. Maybe they remember it one way, and your great-aunt remembers it a little differently. Both are trying to tell their truth, but time and memory have painted slightly different pictures. Or think about a secret message passed through a long line of kids playing telephone. By the end, the message is often totally changed, right? The original truth is lost in all those whispers and retellings. The past is like a vast, deep ocean, and we can only really see the waves closest to shore. The deeper parts, the older stories, are often too murky for us to ever see clearly. And that's why it matters. This simple fact teaches us a kind of humility, a quiet acceptance that some things just can't be fully known. It reminds us that not every question has a perfect, clear answer, especially when it comes to the echoes of ages past. Sometimes, the beauty isn't in having all the facts, but in the mystery itself. It's in that quiet whisper that remains, inviting us to wonder, to imagine, but not always to know for sure. The blur of fast events. Have you ever felt like a day just flew by, so fast you can barely remember what happened? Like a dream that slips away the moment you wake up. Here's the thing, when events happen incredibly fast, one after another, the truth of them can start to blur. It's like trying to count individual raindrops during a huge thunderstorm. You see the water, you feel it, but you can't pick out one single drop, can you? They all just become a rushing sheet. Our minds work a bit like that. When too much information, too many actions, too many feelings come at us all at once, our brains struggle to keep every detail clear and separate. Think about watching a really fast-paced sports game. The ball is flying, players are running, the crowd is cheering. In the moment, it's exciting, intense. But later, if someone asks, you too describe every single play, every exact movement, it's hard. You remember the big moments, maybe the feeling of the crowd, but the smaller details, the specific sequence of things, they just blend together. This isn't new. People in ancient times faced this too. Imagine a sudden chaotic event, like a surprise raid. Those who lived through it might remember fear, a flash of fire, the sound of shouting. But the full, complete truth of what happened, who did what, exactly when, why, becomes nearly impossible to piece together afterwards. Each person's memory is a fragment, shaped by their own experience and the sheer speed of the chaos. And that's why it matters. The speed of life can sometimes make honesty feel slippery. We're not intentionally hiding anything. It's just that our minds are built to make sense of the world, and sometimes that means simplifying what happens too fast. So, next time something rushes by, remember that it's okay if the full picture isn't immediately clear. Sometimes, the truth needs time to settle, like dust after a storm, before we can truly see it. Things we don't question. Have you ever stopped to think about the quiet truths that hum in the background of our lives, the ones we just accept without a second thought? It's not about whether they're right or wrong. It's about how something becomes true for us because we've never been asked to check it. We simply absorb it. These are the foundations of our world that we rarely tap, rarely question. Think about it like this. For thousands of years, people believed the sun revolved around the earth. It just looked that way. The sun rose, crossed the sky, and set. The earth felt still beneath their feet. it was common sense. This idea wasn't some evil lie. It was a deeply felt, unquestioned truth passed down from generation to generation. It fit what everyone saw and experienced, and because it was so widely accepted, so obvious, challenging, it seemed almost foolish, even dangerous. The real truth about our solar system stayed hidden, not because it was impossible to find, but because no one thought to look for it in a different way. Here's an example from our daily lives. Imagine a family story, one told at every holiday. Maybe it's about a grandparent's funny adventure or a quirky tradition. Everyone knows it. Everyone smiles when it's told. Over years, this story becomes part of the family's truth, a shared memory, a piece of who they are. But maybe, just maybe, some details got mixed up over time. Maybe the fish was a little smaller, or the joke wasn't quite said that way. Does it matter? Not really for the story's purpose, but it shows how something can become accepted as fact, even if the tiny edges of its truth have softened or shifted, just because it's never questioned. And that's the thing. Sometimes, truth hides, not because it's far away, but because it's so close, so deeply woven into what we already know, that we never even consider looking at it differently. Taking a quiet moment to simply wonder about these accepted things, to let curiosity gently nudge at them, can be a way to understand the world and ourselves a little more deeply. The cost of knowing. Have you ever thought about how knowing something can change everything? Not just knowing a fact, but really knowing a deep truth. Sometimes, when we learn something important, it doesn't just add to our minds, it shifts us. It can come with a price. Imagine for a moment that all your life you believed in something simple and comforting, like a childhood story, and then, one day, you learn the real, complex history behind it. That new knowledge might make the simple story less magical. It's like seeing the wizard behind the curtain in a play. You gain understanding, but you lose the simple wonder of the illusion. For a long time, people believed the Earth was the center of the universe. It made sense. Everything seemed to revolve around us. Then, scientists like Copernicus and Galileo came along. They studied the stars and planets very carefully, and they discovered that, actually, the Earth orbits the Sun. This was a huge discovery. It was a profound truth. But knowing it meant giving up the idea that humans were at the very center of everything. It felt a little unsettling, perhaps even lonely, to realize our planet was just one of many, spinning in a vast empty space. That's a cost. The old comfort was gone, replaced by a bigger, more complicated, but true, reality. Think about a friendship. Maybe you have a friend you trust completely. Then, you find out they've been telling secrets about you, or talking behind your back. The truth hurts, right? It changes how you see that person. You gain the truth, but you lose your trust, and the friendship might never be the same. That heavy feeling, that ache in your chest, that's part of the cost of knowing. So, here's the thing. Truth isn't always easy. It's not just about collecting facts. Sometimes, the path to knowing asks us to let go of old beliefs, or to feel uncomfortable, or even to grieve for what was. It reminds us that knowing is a journey, and every step can change us, for better or for harder. When trust is lost forever, have you ever had someone you really counted on tell you something that wasn't true? Or maybe you saw something on the news, believed it, and then later found out it was completely made up. It's a heavy feeling, isn't it? It's like a solid ground you were standing on suddenly crumbled away. Here's the thing. When trust breaks, it's not just about one lie. It's about how that single broken promise can make all future truths seem shaky. Imagine you have a special key, and you use it every day to open a door. One day, the key doesn't work. You try it again, but nothing. From that moment on, you might look at all keys differently. You might wonder if any key can truly be relied upon. Think about how people rely on trust in big ways, like with shared knowledge. For hundreds of years, people believed the Earth was flat. This wasn't true, but people trusted what they were told by ancient texts and common understanding. When explorers showed the world was round, it wasn't just a new fact. It made people question everything they thought they knew about how knowledge was created and shared. It showed that even widely accepted truths could be wrong if the trust placed in old ideas was misplaced. Here's a simpler example. Imagine you have a friend who constantly exaggerates or tells tall tales. At first, you might just think they're fun, but after a while, when they tell you something important, like I saw a comet last night, you pause. you wonder, did they really see it? Or are they just making it up again? That's when the truth they offer becomes unknowable to you, because the trust in their words is gone. It's not about the comet anymore. It's about whether you can believe anything they say. So, when trust truly leaves, it leaves a big hole. It means the pathways to knowing things, the ones built on believing what others say, or what we're shown, become blocked. We're left to find our own way through the fog, holding on to our own thoughts and observations, knowing that even those can sometimes trick us. It makes the world feel a bit more lonely, but also teaches us to be more careful, more thoughtful in how we seek what's real. The shadow of doubtful past. Have you ever tried to remember something from a long time ago? Maybe from when you were very young. The details might feel hazy, right? Like an old photo fading at the edges. This is how the past often works. It casts a long shadow, making truth harder to grasp. The further away something happened, the harder it is to know what was truly there. Time blurs things, or even changes them. Imagine a story passed from friend to friend, then to another. By the fifth person, parts might be missing, or new parts added. The original truth gets bent, becoming something different. That this is especially true for history. We read about events from hundreds, even thousands of years ago. These stories were written by people from that time, based on what they saw or believed. People back then often saw things differently. One person's hero might be another's villain. Old records were also often lost, or even destroyed. So, history is like a puzzle with missing pieces. We get a picture, but rarely the whole. Exact. 1. Think about remembering a dream you had last night. It feels so clear when you first wake, but by lunchtime, parts are fuzzier. By the next day, you might only recall a few strange moments. Your own brain, without meaning to, starts to reshape the memory. It's not lying. It's just how memory works, especially over time. Our minds fill in gaps or smooth out rough edges. So, when we look at the past, we rarely see a clear image. It's often through a mist or someone else's eyes. This doesn't mean we stop trying to understand, but it reminds us to be patient and open. It teaches us that truth from long ago is a journey of discovery, not a fixed ending. We keep asking questions, always learning more about the shadows that hide the past. Truth that just fades away. Have you ever tried to remember something really clearly from a long time ago? Maybe a funny story your grandparent told, or exactly what happened on your first day of school. You try to grab onto the details, but they feel like smoke, slipping through your fingers, and that's how some truth becomes unknowable. It simply fades away. It's not like someone hid it or lied about it. It just vanishes, slowly, over time, like a whisper carried away by the wind. Think about it like an old, treasured photo left in the sun. The colors dim, the edges blur, until the picture isn't clear anymore. The original moment, the real truth of what was captured, is still there, but it's harder and harder to see, until it's almost gone. The crisp, true colors are lost. Hundreds, even thousands of years ago, so much of what people knew lived only in their minds, or in stories they told. There weren't cameras or computers, or even many books, and that's why it matters. When a person died, or a whole village was forgotten, or a language wasn't spoken anymore, countless pieces of truth went with them. We hear about ancient libraries, like the one in Alexandria, Egypt, where countless scrolls were lost to fire or neglect. Imagine all the ideas, all the discoveries, all the stories that just turned to dust. The truth of those things didn't disappear because someone wanted it gone. It just faded into the vastness of time. Here's the thing, this happens even in our own lives. Remember that favorite song from when you were little? Can you remember every single word, or how it made you feel the very first time you heard it? The exact joy or calm it brought? Maybe you can get most of it, but some part of the pure, original experience, the exact truth of that moment, has softened, blurred, or just isn't there anymore. It's a part of growing up, watching some vivid truths mellow into a soft echo dot. So maybe not all truth is meant to stay sharp and clear forever. Perhaps some truths are like the seasons, meant to be present for a time, then gently, naturally, make way for something new. And that's a beautiful, if a little sad, thought. It reminds us to cherish the truths we hold, because even they are precious and, in their own quiet way, fleeting. It makes us think about what we remember, and what we might let slip into the past. The things we pretend. Have you ever smiled, even when your heart felt heavy? or nodded along to something, knowing deep down you felt completely different. This isn't about lying to be mean. This is about the quiet things we pretend, often without even realizing it. We build little walls around certain feelings, or we put on a brave face when we're actually scared. It's like we're trying to make a part of ourselves, or a moment, easier to handle. But here's the thing, when we do this, the real truth, the raw feeling, can start to fade, becoming harder for us to even recognize. People have done this for a very long time. Think about how in old stories, characters sometimes wore masks, not just costumes, but masks that changed how they looked, or what emotion they showed. In a way, we still do that every day. We might wear one mask for our friends, another for our teachers, and sometimes even a mask for ourselves when we're alone, just to keep going. We pretend we're fine. We pretend it doesn't hurt. We pretend we understand when we don't. And that's okay sometimes, for a little while. But here's how that can make truth unknowable. Imagine you really wanted to make the school play, and you didn't get a part. You feel crushed, maybe even a little embarrassed. But when your friends ask, you just shrug and say, "Oh, it's fine. I didn't really want to do it anyway." You might even laugh it off. You pretend it doesn't sting, and you say it's fine. That pretend fine becomes the story you tell, not just to others, but also to yourself. Soon, that made-up story starts to feel like the truth, pushing the real hurt, the real disappointment, further and further away. So, when we pretend, we're not just hiding from the world, we're also teaching our own minds to ignore a piece of what's real. The genuine truth, the feeling that was really there, then slips away, becoming harder to reach, harder to know. Sometimes, the bravest thing we can do isn't to keep pretending, but to allow ourselves to feel what's truly there, and to see the reality we might have painted over, because the truth, even the messy parts, is always worth trying to find. Why some doors stay closed? Have you ever wondered why some stories just disappear? Or why there are questions we can never truly answer? Sometimes, truth isn't just hidden, it's lost, like a key dropped in a deep ocean. It's not that we can't find it, but that the path to it is gone forever. The information simply vanished. Think about this. History is full of whispers. Imagine ancient scrolls burning in a library fire, or old cities buried completely by sandstorms. What if the only copy of something truly important, like the reason a kingdom fell, or a special medicine recipe, was destroyed long ago? It's not a secret someone is keeping. It's a truth that simply stopped existing in any way we can find it. We can guess, try to piece things together, but the full picture, the absolute truth, is out of reach. Even in our own lives, this happens. Maybe you had an amazing dream last night, one that felt so real and important, but when you woke up, it faded, slipping away no matter how hard you tried to remember it. It was true for a moment, a truth in your mind, but now it's gone, lost to the waking world. That's a bit like how some truths become unknowable. They might have existed, but the way to access and prove them has vanished. So, here's the thing, not every mystery is meant to be solved. Sometimes, truth isn't just hiding, it's simply no longer there for us to find, and maybe that's okay. It reminds us that knowledge is precious and fragile. It encourages us to appreciate what we do know, and to look at the world with wonder. For the things that stay forever beyond our reach, we learn to live with the echoes, the almost truths, and the quiet beauty of what will always remain unknown. The echo of what never was. Have you ever wondered about the paths you didn't take? The choices you almost made, then changed your mind? It's a strange feeling, like a quiet whisper of something that nearly came to be, but didn't. This is the echo of what never was. Here's the thing, truth isn't only what is real, or what did happen. Sometimes, what didn't happen makes the truth harder to see. Think of a story with missing pages. You read what's there, but feel the absence of lost parts. That absence changes the story, right? It makes the truth feel incomplete. Long ago, many ideas and events were never recorded. A brilliant thought wasn't written down. A library of ancient scrolls burned, taking centuries of knowledge. Those truths vanished. They never became part of our history. Because they're gone, because they never were for us, our picture of the past is incomplete. We're left with an echo of what might have been, but WASN, single quotes, T. Think about your own life. Maybe you planned to try out for the school play, but got nervous and didn't. That experience never happened. But even though it never became real, That what if can still hang around. You might wonder how it would have felt. That echo can shape how you see yourself, or how you think about new things. Its absence leaves a mark. So, the truth of our world is also shaped by invisible paths, quiet almosts, and lost history. These echoes remind us that truth can be fragile. What we know is often just a small part of a much bigger, silent story. It makes you think about all the hidden truths echoing around us. Just a different kind of true. Have you ever stopped to wonder if something can be true for one person, but maybe not quite the same kind of true for someone else? It sounds a little strange at first, because we usually think of truth as fixed, like a solid rock. But here's the thing, sometimes, truth isn't about being perfectly right or wrong. Sometimes, it's just a different kind of true. Think about it like this. For hundreds and hundreds of years, long before science as we know it, different cultures had different stories to explain the world. One group might believe the sun was a god riding a chariot across the sky, bringing light. Another might believe it was a giant bird, its wings beating warmth into the air. Neither of these stories is scientifically true in our modern sense, but for the people who lived them, those stories were deeply true. They shaped how they saw the world, how they lived, what they believed was important. That's a kind of truth that connects to meaning and feeling, not just facts. Imagine two friends who both go to the same concert. After it's over, one friend says it was the most amazing, energetic night ever. The music felt alive, the crowd was electric. The other friend might say it was just okay, maybe too loud, and the singer sounded tired. Both friends are telling their truth. They both experienced the same event, but their feelings, their mood that day, their personal tastes, all shaped what was true for them about that night. Neither one is lying. They're just holding different versions of the truth. So, maybe truth isn't always a single hard line. Sometimes, it's a spectrum, a collection of unique viewpoints that, together, paint a fuller picture of the world. And that's why it matters to listen to how others see things, because their truth, even if it feels different from yours, can still hold meaning.